Chapter 3140. Holy Demon Secret Realm. Nyetian was stunned for a moment and looked at the Rakshasa Palace supervisor in confusion. The Rakshasa Holy Maiden had entered the Holy Demon Mystic Realm and was not coming back. What did this mean? Moreover, he didn't understand why the Rakshasa Palace supervisor would suddenly warn him to stay away from the Rakshasa Saintess. This warning was exactly the same as the Rakshasa Devil Son's warning. Could there be some secret on the Rakshasa Demoness? Nyetian, the Rakshasa Saintess, is the Rakshasa tribe's offering. She cannot be with anyone else. The Rakshasa temple supervisor frowned and said in a deep voice, "Give her." Nyetian's eyes narrowed and he looked puzzled. "You'll understand once you enter the Saint Demon Secret Realm. You just have to remember, don't get too close to her." The Rakshasa temple custodian nodded slightly, his face a little gloomy. Nyetian found it strange, but seeing that the Rakshasa hall master did not want to say more, he did not continue to ask. Then, the Rakshasa palace lord and Nyetian left for the Rakshasa ancestral land. By the time the two arrived at the Rakshasa ancestral land, the Rakshasa palace lord, Desolate Ghost Boundless, and the rest had already arrived. Once again arriving at the Rakshasa ancestral land, Nyetian sensed that the Rakshasa runes in the air no longer suppressed him. In fact, they even stimulated him, causing his energy to surge with excitement. During the battle with Desolate Ghost, he had absorbed a large number of Rakshasa runes. These Rakshasa runes had been specially processed by the Rakshasa Hall, allowing him to perfectly disguise himself as a Rakshasa clan warrior. Her Highness Saintess is indeed here. Nyetian's gaze swept across the Rakshasa Temple Master and Desolate Ghost Boundless. Then, he saw Yuluo, who was not far away, and his heart sank slightly. He did not understand what the Rakshasa Hall Warden meant by the person who presented the gift. However, he had a vague feeling that this trip to the Saint Devil Mystic Realm was definitely not a good thing for Yuluo. At that moment, there were several tens of young women beside Yuluo. Their facial features were exquisite, and their appearances were devastatingly beautiful. Furthermore, these women were all very powerful. They were all pseudo-sacred martial artists. With such strength and looks at such a young age, he was definitely a top-notch genius. However, the expressions of these women were not very pleasant. Their expressions were solemn, and their eyes were filled with sorrow. Could these women be the same as Her Highness the Saintess? Nyetian frowned and thought to himself. Just as Nyetian was feeling confused, the Rakshasa Palace Master walked over. When he sensed Nyetian's aura, he smiled and said, "Lord Temple Supervisor is truly skilled. Given little friend Nyetian's current aura, even this Palace Master would treat him as a member of the Rakshasa race." The Rakshasa Hall Master smiled faintly and did not say anything. Following that, Nyetian noticed several cultivators standing behind the boundless Desolate Ghost. They were all dressed in black and wore Rakshasa masks. Judging from their auras, these cultivators were all very young and powerful. They were all pseudo-sages around Tier 3. It was obvious that these people were cultivators who were with Nyetian and boundless Desolate Ghost, and were preparing to enter the Saint Demon Mystic Land. "Little friend Nyetian." The Rakshasa Palace Master pointed at the spacetime whirlpool in the sky and said, "This spacetime gate leads directly to the Saint Demon Mystic Land. There is an extremely strong age restriction in the Saint Demon Mystic Land. Cultivators over 1,000 years old cannot enter. Next, all of you will enter the Mystic Land. Be careful. The Saint Demon Mystic Land will be open for 3 months. We will meet again in 3 months. As the Rakshasa Palace Master spoke, he started forming strange hand seals. Slowly, a strange space-time force was released from his body. It formed a space-time tunnel in the sky and extended towards the space-time whirlpool. After a while, the space-time tunnel was formed and connected to the space-time whirlpool. "Little friend Nyetian, please." The Rakshasa Palace Master looked at Nyetian and gestured for Nyetian to enter. "Okay." Nyetian nodded slightly. He looked at the space-time whirlpool and stepped in without hesitation. He stepped into the space-time tunnel and disappeared instantly. After seeing Nye Tian's figure disappear, the Rakshasa Palace Master looked at Desolate Ghost and said in a deep voice, "Boundless, I'll leave the gifting to you." Okay. Desolate Ghost nodded. However, his expression was very gloomy and ugly. He turned to look at Yulua, as though he wanted to say something but did not say it. Following that, Desolate Ghost and the others entered the space-time tunnel and disappeared. "I hope everything goes smoothly." The Rakshasa Palace Master looked at the space-time whirlpool in the sky and said in a deep voice, "Lord Palace Master, Nye Tian will definitely not disappoint us." The Rakshasa Palace Master nodded with a smile. However, a strange look flashed in his eyes. Although he was very confident in Nye Tian, there was a small worry in his heart, and that was Yulua. Yulua and the others were the gifters. They only hoped that Nye Tian would not interfere in this matter. Following that, the Rakshasa Palace Master and the Rakshasa Palace Master did not leave. They were going to wait here for 3 months. At the same time, in the Saint Demon's secret realm, several figures hovered in the air. They were none other than Nye Tian and the others. Is this the Saint Demon's secret realm? Nye Tian looked at the unfamiliar world in front of him. His eyes trembled slightly, and there was an uncontrollable joy in them. At that moment, the world in front of him was not much different from a domain. The biggest difference was that the space was filled with extremely pure saint energy. Nye Tian had long known that the fundamental difference between a saint world, a domain, and a plane of existence was the difference in the composition of energy. Previously, he thought that the saint world's saint energy should be very ordinary and not much stronger than the sacred soul region that was still growing. But now, he truly experienced how terrifying the saint world was. The space he was currently in was filled with boundless saint energy. It could not be mentioned in the same breath as the sacred soul region. The difference was like the difference between clouds and mud. The saint energy here was so dense that it could directly affect a cultivator's yuan meridians. Just by standing there, Nye Tian could feel the restlessness of his 9 yuan meridians. It was like a parched land yearning for the nourishment of rain. And when his yuan meridians revolved, waves of saint energy surged into his martial body like a violent flood. At that moment, Nye Tian felt all the pores on his body open up, and he felt an indescribable sense of comfort. The others clearly felt the same way, and their faces were filled with uncontrollable joy. I've broken through." At this time, a voice suddenly rang out. A warrior's face was filled with excitement and joy. Nye Tian looked at the cultivator and sensed the latter's aura. He could not help but be shocked. That cultivator really broke through. He had just arrived at the Saint Demon's secret realm, and he had already broken through. It was obvious how much the saint energy had an impact on a cultivator's martial body. I broke through too." Following that, another excited voice rang out. A cultivator almost jumped up. "I broke through too." Following that, another person shouted. Nye Tian frowned and his gaze swept across the crowd. He discovered that everyone's aura had increased significantly. Even the boundless desolation ghost had broken through. It should be pointed out that the boundless desolation ghost had just broken through before coming to the Saint Demon's secret realm. Chapter 3141. Arrogant cultivators, the sacred world is indeed different from other realms. All of them have broken through. Nye Tian looked at the crowd and was shocked. Their martial physiques have never come into contact with such pure saint force before. It's not strange for him to make a breakthrough under the impact of the saint force of the world. The Ghost Emperor's voice sounded out. Yes. Nye Tian nodded. His lips twitched and he asked helplessly, "Why didn't I break through?" The dozens of people present, including Desolate Ghost Boundless, all of them broke through in strength. Nye Tian was the only one who did not break through. He was still in the second-order pseudo-sage realm. Nye Tian found it strange and unacceptable. Although he had a breakthrough not long ago, that was already a month ago, Boundless Ghost had just broken through. How could he break through again under the impact of the Saint Force? I don't know why either. Maybe it's because you have the power of the stars in your body, or maybe you have fused with the seed of the sacred world. Ghost Emperor was also confused and shook his head. Forget it. If I didn't make a breakthrough, then so be it. Making a breakthrough now might not be a good thing for me anyway. The corner of Nietion's mouth twitched. After a while, everyone calmed down. Their faces were still filled with excitement. But when they noticed that Nietion did not break through, they could not help but feel strange. Nietion did not say anything and smiled helplessly. "Humph! A bunch of country bumpkins." At this moment, a low and mocking voice resounded high up in the sky. It was extremely ear-piercing as it resounded through space. Nietion and the rest were stunned. They looked in the direction of the voice and saw a figure in black standing in the sky. A pair of cold eyes flickered as he stared at them. Nietion was stunned. He extended his divine sense and his eyes trembled. He had no idea when the figure in black had appeared. The person's strength surprised him even more. He had already reached the fifth-order pseudo-sage realm. Those who could enter the sacred demon's secret realm had to be under 1,000 years old. To have such strength at such a young age, he was indeed very strong. You must be Rakshasa rebels. What a bunch of bumpkins. This is the first time you've come to the saint's world, the first time you've enjoyed the saint force of the world, and you've broken through. Are you very excited? At this moment, the black-clothed man spoke again. He was extremely disdainful. When the Rakshasa people heard this person's words, their expressions turned ugly, but they did not dare to speak. The Saint Demon's secret realm was only open to Asura clansmen. The black-robed cultivator before him was definitely a member of the Asura race. He was a cultivator from the holy world. "Who are you?" Desolate Ghost frowned and asked in a deep voice. "Rakshasa traitor, scum of the Shura clan. Do you not have the right to know who I am?" That person smiled coldly. His attitude was extremely arrogant. "You!" One of the cultivators behind the Boundless Ghost could no longer endure it. He roared and took a step forward. Just as he was about to speak, the Boundless Ghost extended his hand and stopped him. Desolate Ghost Boundless did not want to have a conflict with this person, so he decided to bear with it. "Are you waiting for us?" the Boundless Ghost asked as he raised his head and looked at that person. "Rakshasa traitor, you are not that stupid. Come with me," that person said coldly with a Rakshasa smile and raised his eyebrows. The Boundless Ghost frowned. Clearly, he did not like being called a Rakshasa traitor. However, he still led the others over to that person. That person swept his cold gaze over Nietion, the Boundless Ghost, and the others. Then, his gaze landed on Uluo and the others. His eyes revealed undisguised lust and greed. His gaze was like a venomous snake as it roamed around Uluo and the others, making them feel very uncomfortable. Nietion frowned slightly, his expression turning sullen. Ever since this person appeared, he had felt disgusted. This person's current actions were simply challenging the bottom line of Nietion's tolerance. At this moment, the Boundless Ghost finally could not endure it anymore. He spoke coldly, practically growling, "Have you seen enough? Since when did the Rakshasa traitor become so arrogant?" that person exclaimed. He glanced at the Boundless Ghost, and said coldly, "These are the presents that your Rakshasa race is offering us as a tribute. What's wrong with me taking a few more glances?" Offering? When Nietion heard this word, he could not help narrowing his eyes as he understood something. Could it be that the Rakshasa race had prepared the presents for the other Asura race members? If that was really the case, wouldn't Uluo and the others be treated as objects and given to others? Thinking of this, Nietion looked at the black-clad cultivator, his expression turning even more sullen. "If you have seen enough, let's go," The boundless ghost frowned as he looked coldly at that person. Clearly, he was suppressing the rage in his heart. What's the rush? I haven't seen enough. That person raised his eyebrows and smiled. With an unbridled expression, he actually took a step forward and approached a woman. With a lewd smile, he said, "Not only do I want to see, but I also want to touch." As he spoke, he actually stretched out his hand and grabbed the woman's face. "What are you doing?" The woman was so frightened that her pretty face froze. She screamed and instinctively retreated. "What do you think?" That person's smile became even more lewd. His entire body released a formless aura that enveloped the woman, preventing her from moving. Then, his hand fell and touched the woman's pretty face. Bastard! At this moment, a Rakshasa race cultivator finally could not stand it anymore. With a low roar, his entire body's aura surged. He took a step forward and charged at the black-clad cultivator. Impudent! The black-clad cultivator's eyes narrowed. Then, with a low roar, he directly struck out with his palm. Instantly, the void trembled and a violent palm force surged out like a dragon. Bang! A dull sound rang out in the void. The Rakshasa race cultivator who attacked was sent flying, leaving a bloody trail in the air. That person flew thousands of meters away. After he stabilized himself, his entire body was covered in blood. His body swayed and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "You!" When the boundless ghost saw this, he did not expect this person to be so ruthless. "What about me?" The black-clothed martial artist glanced at the desolate ghost boundless realm and became even more arrogant. He took a step forward and directly grabbed the woman's snow-white wrist. He suddenly exerted force, wanting to pull the woman into his embrace. Whoosh! However, at this moment, there was a sudden sound of something piercing through the void. A sharp sword's essence suddenly appeared, sharp to the extreme. The black-clad cultivator instantly felt danger. He exclaimed in surprise, but it was too late. Chapter 31:42. The dark wing Azura. The sudden scene caused everyone's eyes to tremble, and they were all stunned on the spot. In the next moment, everyone's eyes locked onto Nyetian. The person who had just attacked was none other than Nyetian. "Nyetian!" Desolated Ghost exclaimed as he looked at Nyetian. His eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. Despite his strength, he did not dare to attack the black-clothed cultivator. Of course, he was not afraid of the black-clothed cultivator. Instead, he was afraid of the Azura clan that the black-clothed cultivator represented. The Rakshasa clan was viewed as a traitor of the Azura clan and was exiled from the Holy World. Their status among all the Azura clans was the lowest. Before entering the Holy Demon's secret zone, the Rakshasa temple leader had warned Desolated Ghost repeatedly not to have any conflict with the other Azura clans. Because of this, he had endured it time and time again. However, even though he had endured it, Nyetian had not. A few seconds later, the black-clothed cultivator reacted. As if he had gone mad, he let out a hysterical scream toward the sky like a pig being slaughtered. He did not expect the people of the Rakshasa tribe to attack him and injure him. His eyes were trembling, his body was trembling, and even the blood in his body was trembling. "Ant, you're seeking death!" the black-clothed cultivator roared. His eyes were bloodshot, and his murderous intent was thick. Boom! Following that, his body shook and his aura surged. A pair of dark wings appeared on his back. When they unfolded, they were at least 100 meters long. In an instant, everyone felt a violent aura rushing toward them, causing their hearts to skip a beat. Dark Wing Azura. When Desolated Ghost saw the wings on the back of the black-clothed cultivator, his eyes narrowed. His face was filled with shock, and he exclaimed in his heart. This man was from the second strongest Azura clan, the Dark Wing Azura clan. Desolated Ghost had never seen the Dark Wing Azura before, but he had heard the Rakshasa temple leader mention how powerful the Dark Wing Azura was. An ordinary dark-wing Azura martial artist was much stronger than a martial artist of the same rank. They could even challenge a martial artist who was 1 or 2 ranks stronger than them. In other words, even though the Darkwing Azura was only a rank 5 pseudo-sage, his battle prowess was comparable to a rank 6 pseudo-sage or even a rank 7 pseudo-sage. Nie Tian looked at the Darkwing Azura with a slight frown, but the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Die! At this moment, the Darkwing Azura let out a low roar. The wings on his back shook violently, causing the void to rumble. He shot forward like an arrow, charging straight at Nie Tian. Nie Tian, watch out! When Desolate Ghost and Yu Luo saw this, their eyes trembled and they cried out in alarm at the same time. Nie Tianling hovered in the air without the slightest hint of fear on his face. Instead, his expression was stern and playful. Courting death. In the next moment, the corner of his mouth twitched. He took a step forward, and sword intent surged from his body. The starry sky slash appeared in his hand, and he slashed out. Bam! 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 The sword shadows in the air were incomparably sharp, exploding with terrifying power. They pierced through the layers of dark wing power and closed in on the Darkwing Azura. The Darkwing Azura suddenly felt a terrifying force coming at him. He frowned and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Boom! In the next instant, the dark wing power around him was directly broken, and a long sword pierced straight at him. Just as the sword was about to reach him, it stopped less than a meter away from him. The sharp sword aura whistled out, leaving several bloody wounds on the Darkwing Azura's body. The Darkwing Azura looked at the sword in front of him with trembling eyes. The fear in his heart was perfectly written on his face. The scene before their eyes caused everyone's eyes to tremble, and they were directly stunned. The Darkwing Azura's aura was so strong, but in front of Nie Tian, he could not withstand a single blow. Desolate Ghost was dumbfounded. He could not believe the scene in front of him. He had been worried about Nie Tian just now, but now he realized that the one he should be worried about was the Darkwing Azura. At this moment, his face was covered in cold sweat. Fortunately, Nie Tian had stopped in time. Otherwise, the power of the sword would have been enough to kill the Darkwing Azura on the spot. They had just arrived at the Holy Demon's secret land. If they had killed the Darkwing Azura, it would have been really troublesome. I am not dead. I'm not dead. The Darkwing Azura, who was still in a state of shock, suddenly felt his thighs heat up, and the smell of urine permeated the air. He had wet his pants. Is this all you've got? You're the real ant. Nie Tianling laughed and withdrew the starry sky slash. He could not be bothered to look at the Darkwing Azura. The Darkwing Azura's eyes flickered as he stared at Nie Tian, fear filling his eyes. However, he still pretended to be calm and screamed, "Do you know who I am?" Nie Tian's expression flickered. "One more word and I'll kill you." Nie Tian's eyes turned cold, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. The Darkwing Azura felt as if he had fallen into an icehouse. The terrifying chill made him despair. He had no doubt that if he said another word, Nie Tian would really kill him. Nie Tian narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Lead the way." The Darkwing Azura gulped and nodded his head like a rattledrum, but he did not dare to say a word. After turning around, he obediently led the way. The Boundless Ghost and the others reacted and looked at Nie Tian. Their eyes were trembling, but their faces were filled with worry. Nie Tian had taught the Darkwing Azura a lesson and helped the Rakshasa tribe vent their anger. However, what happened next would be very troublesome. "I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in," Nie Tian said with a bitter smile as he came to the Boundless Ghost's side. "It's not your fault." The Boundless Ghost frowned and did not say anything else. He just walked forward. "Your Highness, don't you want to tell me about the giver?" Nie Tian's eyes narrowed as he transmitted his voice. The Boundless Ghost's figure froze. He looked at Nie Tian and said Nie Tian coldly, "Nie Tian, don't interfere with the giver." "Your Highness, I'm a Rakshasa tribe cultivator now. Can't I ask about my tribe? Nyetian frowned and insisted. He had no relationship with the Rakshasa tribe. However, during the 3 months in the Saint Demon Mystic realm, he would treat himself as a Rakshasa tribe member. Therefore, he had to interfere with the Rakshasa tribe. The boundless ghost looked at Nyetian and hesitated for a long time. Finally, he told him about the giver. A long time ago, the Rakshasa tribe was seen as a traitor of the Asura tribe and was exiled to the myriad regions. However, the exiled Rakshasa tribe could still enter the Saint Demon Mystic realm, the forbidden ground of the Asura tribe. However, the prerequisite was that the Rakshasa tribe had to prepare a tribute to the other Asura tribes every time the Holy Demon Mystic realm opened. The so-called giver was actually a young female prodigy of the Rakshasa tribe as a plaything for the other Asura tribes. Chapter 31:43. Fei Tian Crown Prince. Nye Tian's expression darkened when he heard Boundless Ghost's words. He did not speak for a long time. Boundless Ghost's expression was similarly dark. He swept his gaze across Yulua and the others and said in a low voice, "Yulua and the others are all offering gifts. After we meet the other Asura race members, Yulua and the others will be sent over." Sent over? Nye Tian frowned. Suppressed anger surged in his eyes. Sending over? These 3 words were said very casually. However, the lives of Yulua and the others would be buried. Yulua and the others could be said to be the most outstanding female prodigies of the Rakshasa race. Yet, they were actually offered to the other Asura race in such a humiliating manner. This was simply unacceptable. Eyebrows furrowed, Nye Tian looked at the boundless ghost and asked, "Is this why you warned me to stay away from the holy daughter?" "Yes." Boundless Ghost nodded with an extremely ugly expression. "Nye Tian, you don't have to care about the offering gift. Yulua and the others sacrifice themselves for the Rakshasa race. Their sacrifice is worth something." "Worth something?" Nye Tian's gaze darkened as he asked in a cold voice, "Do you think this kind of humiliation is worth something? Have you ever thought about what will happen to the Holy Maiden and the others after they are offered to the other Asura race members? In my opinion, the offering gifts is not the value of the Rakshasa race, but the humiliation." Boundless Ghost's expression turned even uglier when he heard Nye Tian's words. He wasn't a fool. How could he not understand what Nye Tian was talking about? But what could he do? The offering ceremony had existed for millions of years. All this time, the Rakshasa race had been struggling at death's door in this humiliating manner. If they did not offer gifts, not only would they lose the opportunity to enter the Saint Demon Mystic realm, but they might also be hunted down by the other Asura race members, making it impossible for them to survive in the myriad realms. For the sake of the Rakshasa race's survival, the offering ceremony had to continue. "Nye Tian, I know that you are very angry. However, please do not interfere in this matter." Desolate Ghost looked at Nye Tian and said solemnly. Yulua had become the one to offer the gift, and he was similarly grieved. He and Yulua had grown up together and were like siblings. He had to personally give Yulua to someone else. This kind of pain was simply heart-wrenching. But he had no choice. He had to do it. Everyone else, including Yulua, knew what kind of situation they were facing, but they had no choice. Just like this dark wing Asura in front of her, he was scum. The Rakshasa's offering was about to be defiled by such a person. When he thought of this, the boundless ghost Desolate was filled with an explosive rage. However, he was still rational. For the continuation of the Rakshasa race, he had to endure it. "I understand." Nye Tian's eyes narrowed slightly as he said lightly. Desolate Ghost frowned, but his expression was very ugly, and he was very worried. He knew that a person like Nye Tian would never give up. A short while later, under the lead of the Dark Wing Asura, Nye Tian and the others arrived high up in the sky. Under their feet was a lake with a circumference of hundreds of thousands of meters. The legendary demonic Saint Lake. Desolate Ghost Boundless looked at the lake below and his eyes trembled. He was pleasantly surprised. Holy Demon Lake. Nyetion frowned and looked down. He used his divine consciousness to sense it, and his eyes could not help but tremble in shock. A thick mist floated above the Holy Demon Lake, and the mist actually emitted an extremely dense aura of sacred power. In an instant, Nyetion understood that the Holy Demon Lake below was actually condensed from the sacred power of the heavens and earth. The sacred power of the heavens and earth was so dense that it condensed into a lake. One could imagine how massive the sacred power contained within it was. The others were equally shocked, and their eyes were burning with passion. Traitors of the Rakshasa race, you have finally arrived. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly rang out in the void, and a figure appeared. Nyetion looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man in white. He had an exquisite face, and was more handsome than most women. The most eye-catching thing was that this man in white had a head of crimson hair that was like flames flying in the air, giving off a scorching feeling. At this moment, this man in white was looking at Nyetion and the others with a cold gaze, as though he was high and mighty. The non-heaven Azura race. Desolate Ghost looked at the man in white, and his eyes trembled violently as he roared in his heart. He could tell at a glance that this man in white was someone from the non-heaven Azura race. The most obvious characteristic of someone from the non-heaven Azura race was their crimson hair. The reason why Desolate Ghost was so excited was because the non-heaven Azura race was the greatest enemy of the Rakshasa race. Even the non-heaven blood curse in the Rakshasa race's bloodline power was bestowed upon them by the non-heaven Azura race. The humiliation of the gift-giver was also a rule set by the non-heaven Azura race. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the tragedy of the Rakshasa race was all caused by the non-heaven Azura race. Right now, among all the Azura races, the non-heaven Azura race was the strongest. How could Desolate Ghost not be excited when he saw the greatest enemy of his race? Rakshasa traitor, you have no right to be angry in front of me. At this moment, the white-robed man could sense the rage of the boundless Ghost King. He frowned and laughed coldly. After that, he stretched out his palm and slammed it downward. A tyrannical force pressed down on the boundless Ghost King, aiming to kill him. Boom! In the void, a blood-colored palm print appeared, rolling like a huge blood-colored wave with an extremely violent aura. Desolate Ghost frowned, and the renegade god Rakshasa appeared in his hand. He slashed out with his spear, and the spear's shadow soared into the sky, causing the void to tremble. Boom! In the next instant, the spear's shadow and the blood-colored palm print collided, and the void rumbled. The blood-colored palm print was extremely strange. It suddenly wrapped around the spear's shadow and started spinning like a hurricane. Boom! Bang bang bang! Under the pressure of the huge force, the spear's shadow was twisted and shattered in the air. Boom! In the next instant, the blood-colored palm print suddenly became violent and swooped down on Desolate Ghost. Oh no! Nyetion's eyes trembled when he saw this scene, and he exclaimed. The man in white was very strong. He had actually reached the 8th stage pseudo-sage realm. Even Desolate Ghost could not compete with the man in white head-on. Little did he know that the man in white was the prince of the non-heaven Azura race, Fei Sirius Chin. Roar! At this moment of life and death, Nyetion did not hesitate. The dragon chi in his body surged out, and a crimson dragon appeared. It roared at the sky and charged at the blood-colored palm print in the sky. Boom! In the void, the shadow of the dragon was like a mountain. It violently attacked and forcefully shattered the blood-colored palm print. However, the violent force exploded and wreaked havoc in the space. It was still very terrifying. Desolate Ghost's figure was sent flying a few hundred meters away. After he stabilized his body, he spat out a mouthful of blood. As for Nyetion, he also took a few steps back, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 3144. Saint Devil Grand Master, hiss! The scene that occurred high up in the sky caused everyone's eyes to tremble, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Nobody expected Prince Fei Tian to attack so suddenly, and it was a killing move. He wanted to kill Huang Huanggui right away. The reason why he killed Huang Huanggui was because Huang Huanggui showed his anger in front of him. Prince Fei Tian's overbearingness was insane. "Your Highness, are you all right?" Nie Tian steadied himself and shouted at Huang Huanggui. "I'm fine." Desolate Ghost Boundless Ghost took a deep breath and his complexion improved a lot. He nodded and said, "What happened just now was way too dangerous. If it weren't for Nie Tian, Huang Huanggui would be a dead body by now." It was at this moment that Prince Feitian, who was hovering in midair, glared at Nie Tian with a grim look in his eyes. Killing intent surged out of his body. Nie Tian dared to save someone that Fei Tianchern wanted to kill. This was a huge taboo. Die. In the next moment, Crown Prince Fei Tian let out a low roar. Without saying a single word, he dashed towards Nie Tian. "Stop!" Just then, a deep voice was heard. Then, a powerful force appeared. It was extremely strange, as if it had merged with the space around it. It brought with it the power of the heaven and earth as it descended. The Fei Tian Crown Prince's all-out attack disappeared without a trace under the impact of this majestic force. Prince Fei Tian's face darkened. He paused and looked into the sky. In his line of sight, an illusory white-haired old man appeared, his entire body surging with holy light, shining brilliantly. Nie Tian frowned and looked at the illusionary old man in shock. The old man's aura was like a mountain. Just by standing there, he created a strong pressure on the space around him. Judging from how the old man easily blocked Prince Fei Tian's attack, his strength was immeasurable. What made Nie Tian even more confused was, didn't the Saint Devil Secret Realm only allow cultivators below 1,000 years old to enter? Why would an old man appear out of nowhere? This is a soul body. Just as Nie Tian was feeling bewildered, the Ghost Emperor's voice suddenly rang out. "It's hard to imagine that there is someone in this world who can condense such a powerful soul body." Soul body? Nie Tian was stunned. He didn't understand what the Ghost Emperor meant. Just treat it as a clone. The Ghost Emperor didn't explain too much. Instead, he exclaimed, "This soul body has existed for at least 10 million years, yet it still possesses such terrifying strength. Truly powerful." Nie Tian frowned and seemed to understand something. This soul body had probably entered the Saint Demon Mystic realm a long time ago. It was just that it had never left. No wonder the old man's body looked so illusory. It turned out that he was a soul. The appearance of the illusory old man caused the Feitian Crown Prince to be extremely wary. He respectfully stood where he was and lowered his head, not daring to speak. At this moment, many other Azura clan cultivators had appeared in the void around them without anyone noticing. All of them looked at the illusory old man with respect, as if they were worshipping a saint. This soul body was the creator of the Saint Demon Secret Realm. He was also the guardian of the Saint Demon Secret Realm. The Azura clan called him the Saint Demon Grand Master. Every time the Azura clan entered the Saint Demon Secret Realm, they had to be under the watchful eyes of the Saint Demon Grand Master. What the Azura clan cultivators had to do next was also arranged by the Saint Demon Grand Master. "Welcome, Saint Demon Grand Master." At this moment, everyone bowed and shouted solemnly, "Rise." The Saint Demon Grand Master stood in the sky, like the ruler of heaven and earth. He raised his head slightly. The next moment, he locked his eyes on the Feitian Crown Prince. His powerful voice rang out, "Kid from the Azura clan, what is your name?" "I am Feitian Crown Prince of the Azura clan, not Sirius Chin." The Feitian Crown Prince bowed deeply and responded with respect. No matter how overbearing and arrogant he was, he wouldn't dare to show it in front of the Saint Demon Grand Master. "Fei Sirius Chin." The Saint Demon Grand Master called out the Phaeton Crown Prince's name. He laughed and said, "Compared to the Phaeton Crown Prince who came to the Saint Demon's secret realm last time, you are much more talented. I am curious. With your talent, are you qualified to be baptized by the blood of the Saint Demon?" "I will try my best. I will not disappoint you." The Phaeton Crown Prince bowed deeply. He was so excited that his voice was shaking. He didn't expect the Saint Demon Grand Master to have such high hopes for him. "Fei Sirius Chin, you are talented. But in the Saint Demon's secret realm, you have to follow my rules. I will forget about what happened just now. But if there is a next time, I will kill you myself." The Saint Demon Grand Master's face darkened and he said coldly. The deep voice was filled with an extremely strong sense of threat. In the Saint Demon's secret realm, killing each other was not allowed. Fei Sirius Chen had already broken the rules. But the Saint Demon Grand Master saw that he was talented, so he let him go. "Yes." Fei Sirius Chen nodded with respect. Then, the Saint Demon Grand Master looked at Nye Tian and frowned. He seemed confused. He sensed something different from Nye Tian. But he wasn't sure. He was hesitating. Nye Tian was nervous. He was worried that the Saint Demon Grand Master could tell that he was not from the Shura race. He was afraid that the Saint Demon Grand Master could tell that he was not from the Shura race. "Don't worry. This old man is just a soul. His senses are not that strong." The Ghost King smiled and said, "That's good." Nye Tian let out a sigh of relief and calmed down. After a while, the Saint Demon Grand Master spoke. He seemed to be interested in Nye Tian. He smiled and asked, "Luosha Race Kid, what is your name?" "My name is Gue Huangtian." Nye Tian bowed slightly and gave a fake name. Before he came, the Luosha Palace supervisor had told him not to use the name Nye Tian. "So you are from the Ghost Wild race. No wonder the Luosha Qi inside you is so strong." The Saint Demon Grand Master smiled and waved his hand, signaling Nye Tian to step back. Nye Tian bowed slightly and retreated to Boundless Ghost's side. By now, all the Shura race people had arrived. The Darkwing Azura had taken advantage of the chaos to return to the Darkwing Azura tribe's camp. Everyone looked at the Saint Demon Grand Master, waiting for his next arrangement. At this moment, Nye Tian suddenly sensed a strange yet familiar aura. He couldn't help but frown, and his expression instantly changed. He abruptly turned around and looked into the void. There, dozens of Darkwing Shura stood. Among the dozens of faces, there were two that he found very familiar, and they were also looking at Nye Tian from afar. How is this possible? Nye Tian's expression flickered as he saw the two faces in the distance. Chapter 3145. Nye Tian stared at the two familiar faces in the distance. His eyes trembled uncontrollably and his expression was one of disbelief. He never expected that the people in front of him would be Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu. Why would Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu be here? This was the Holy Realm. This was also the forbidden area of the Azura tribe. Only Azura tribe warriors could enter. Could Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu be from the Azura tribe? This was absolutely impossible. Tang 13 possessed the Ghost Eye. She was definitely from the Tang clan. Although Nye Tian did not know much about Tang Hao's background, he was certain that he was not from the Azura tribe. As for Tang Yuyu, his background had always been a mystery. He came from the Chaotic Abyss and was from the Hidden Soul clan, one of the three wonders of the demonic realm. It was possible that he was from the Azura tribe. However, Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu appearing in the Holy Demon's secret land at the same time puzzled Nye Tian. The next moment, Nye Tian finally calmed down. He used his divine sense to check and his expression changed. Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu's strength had reached the pseudo-divine realm. Tang 13 was a 4th-rank pseudo-divine and Tang Yuyu was a 5th-rank pseudo-divine. Their cultivation bases were even higher than Nye Tian's. How is this possible? Nye Tian's first reaction was that his heart sank. It was impossible. He admitted that Tang 13 was very talented. Among all the people he had met, she was definitely in the top 5, maybe even the top 3. Moreover, Nie Tian believed that Tang 13's future achievements in martial arts would be limitless. The last time they met was at the ancestral land of Qi Wu's clan, when the Jiu Ying hunting grounds was forbidden. When they parted ways, Nie Tian was looking forward to meeting Tang 13 again. He wanted to see how strong he would be. Now that he saw Tang 13, he could not believe it. The fact that Tang 13 had managed to reach the rank 4 pseudo-sage realm in such a short period of time was simply unbelievable. Could it be? Then, Nie Tian's eyes widened. He thought of a possibility and his expression froze. If Tang 13's strength increased so quickly, then there was only one possibility. He had entered the Holy Realm a long time ago. That should be the case. The more Nie Tian thought about it, the more certain he was. It wasn't that he was arrogant, it was that he truly knew that Tang 13 was not as talented as he was. Furthermore, Nie Tian had gone through countless life-and-death situations and borrowed many heaven-defying powers to raise his strength to the Tier 2 pseudo-saint realm. The only possibility for Tang 13 to be stronger than him was that she had entered the saint's world a very long time ago. Cultivating in the holy world was completely different from cultivating in the realms. Just like earlier, when Nie Tian and the others had just entered the Saint Devil Mystic realm, the strength of Boundless Ghost Desolation and the others had directly increased by 1 level. QL11 This was impossible in the realms. Moreover, in the Saint Devil Mystic realm, all the martial artists were young martial artists below the age of 1000. Even the weakest among them was at least a rank 3 pseudo-sage. In the realms, a pseudo-sage expert below the age of 1000 was simply unimaginable. Back in the 9 territories, Nie Fenghua had already reached the paramount celestial realm before the age of 10,000. That was already considered the peak of talent. Of course, the 9 territories were the weakest among the myriad territories. The closer to the periphery of the myriad territories, the stronger the martial artists were. For example, the 10 territories, which was at the very edge of the myriad territories, had a martial artist who had reached the pseudo-sage realm before the age of 1000. This also showed how important the environment of the world was to a martial artist's cultivation. Following that, Nie Tian locked his gaze on Tang Yuyu. He immediately sensed an extremely ordinary aura from the latter, causing his eyes to narrow. He had always thought that Tang Yuyu's talent was below Tang 13's. He didn't expect Tang Yuyu's current strength to exceed Tang 13's. He had reached the shocking rank 5 pseudo-sage realm. Perhaps the hidden primordial spirit in Tang Yuyu's body had completely awakened. At that moment, Tang 13 smiled faintly and nodded slightly as a greeting to Nie Tian. Even though Nie Tian's body was currently filled with the aura of Rakshasa runes, Tang 13 could still recognize him at a glance. However, this was clearly not a good time for the two of them to reunite. Nie Tian was very curious about what Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu had experienced. But now, he could only suppress this curiosity in his heart for the time being. Ghost Huangtian, do you know the 2 dark wing Azuras? At that moment, the boundless ghost sensed that something was wrong with Nie Tian's expression and secretly transmitted his voice to him. He was very cautious. Even if he were to transmit his voice, he would directly call Ghost Huangtian instead of Nie Tian. I don't know them. I just sensed an unusual aura from them. Nie Tian smiled faintly and responded cleverly. The boundless ghost nodded and did not say anything else. At that moment, Nie Tian realized that Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu were in the camp of the Dark Shadow Azura clan. It seemed that Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu were currently in the Dark Wing Azura clan. The Dark Wing Azura, whose face Nie Tian had left a sword mark on, was standing behind Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu. He looked very respectful. It seemed that Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu had a very high status in the Dark Wing Azura clan. Everyone from the 5 Azura clans is here, right? At that moment, the voice of the Grand Master of the Saint Devil clan could be heard from the sky. It was deep and powerful, like thunder, resounding in everyone's ears. As he spoke, he glanced at everyone with a dignified look, as if he had descended from the sky. Nietion's eyes narrowed slightly. He immediately realized that the Azura clans present were divided into 5 groups. Obviously, they were the 5 Azura clans mentioned by the Grand Master. However, other than the Rakshasa clan, there were hundreds of people from the other 4 Azura clans. Obviously, the Rakshasa clan was a traitor clan, so the number of people who could enter the Holy Demon secret area was extremely limited. Since everyone is here, let's begin. The Grand Master's voice was deep and thunderous. Before he could continue, he was interrupted by a voice. Grand Master! A warrior in black clothes from the Dark Wing Azura clan stepped forward and bowed to the Grand Master. He did not dare to show any disrespect. Who are you? The Grand Master frowned. Obviously, he was not happy that someone interrupted him. I am the Prince of the Dark Wing Azura clan, Unwufeng. The man in black clothes introduced himself and bowed. He said, Grand Master, before the Holy Demon trial begins, I have a request. I would like to ask the Grand Master to help us, the Dark Wing Azura clan. What is it? The Grand Master frowned and asked in a cold tone. And Xuan Yuan, come out, Unwufeng said in a deep voice, his face stern. As soon as he finished speaking, a Dark Wing Azura stepped out. He suddenly raised his head, revealing the sword mark on his face. Sword mark? Who did this? Everyone cried out in alarm when they saw the obvious sword mark. Their expressions were extremely horrified. Leaving a sword mark on a warrior's face was a great humiliation to the warrior. Most importantly, it was a Dark Wing Azura, which was second only to the non-Sky Azura clan among the 5 Azura clans. Chapter 3146. Above the Saint Devil Lake, everyone could feel the anger of the Saint Devil Grand Master. Their eyes widened in shock. In the Holy Devil secret realm, Shura race was forbidden to kill each other. This was a rule set by the Saint Devil Grand Master. Just now, Prince Fei Tian attacked Baron Ghost and almost killed him. This made the Saint Devil Grand Master furious. If it wasn't for Prince Fei Tian's special identity and talent, the Saint Devil Grand Master would have killed him already. Now, someone had left a sword mark on the face of a Dark Wing Shura. This was an insult to the entire Dark Wing Shura race. This could lead to a bloody war between the 2 races. This was something the Saint Devil Grand Master could not tolerate. At that moment, the Rakshasa people's expressions flickered as they involuntarily turned to look at Nietion. And Xuan Yuan was the one who was taught a lesson by Nietion. Old ancestor, I was ordered by His Highness the Crown Prince to receive the Rakshasa clan. However, a warrior from the Rakshasa race did not appreciate it. He suddenly attacked and injured me. Old ancestor, please uphold justice for this junior. As Xuan Yuan spoke, his voice was choked with sobs, as though he had been greatly wronged. Huh! When the crowd heard Xuan Yuan's words, their eyes couldn't help but tremble. After that, their expressions changed, becoming extremely strange. And Xuan Yuan was lying when he said he was going to pick up the Rakshasa race. The other Azura clansmen were well aware of his objective, and Xuan Yuan was obviously going to pick up the Rakshasa race's giver. The giver from the Rakshasa race had to be given to the other 4 races. Which clan wouldn't want a more talented and beautiful offering lady? And Xuan Yuan was there to pick the giver. Who hurt you? Saint Devil Grand Master heard what Xuan Yuan said, and his eyebrows furrowed in anger. He growled like thunder, and his whole body shook, as if the sky was going to collapse. It was me. As soon as he finished speaking, a silver-haired figure strode out and spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. It was Nietion. Nietion. When Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu saw Nietion step out, their eyes widened and they screamed in their hearts. It's that kid. When the others saw Nietion, they couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Just now, Nye Tian had already appeared once. Furthermore, he had blocked Prince Fei Tian's palm with a single move, shocking everyone present. Who would have thought that he would come out at this time? In the next moment, everyone sensed Nye Tian's strength, and they were even more shocked. And Xuan Yuan had the strength of a fifth-stage pseudo-saint, while Nye Tian was only a second-stage pseudo-saint martial artist. How could he possibly leave a sword mark on the former's face? "It's you, Ghost Huang Tian?" The Saint Devil Grand Master was also surprised to see Nye Tian. He frowned and asked. He was also curious as to how Nye Tian managed to leave a sword mark on Xuan Yuan's face. "Ghost Huang Tian, did you really do that on his face?" The Saint Devil Grand Master calmed down and asked in a cold tone. "Yes." Nye Tian nodded and did not say anything else. "Why did you do that?" The Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes were cold as he continued to ask. "Grand Master, and Xuan Yuan came to pick up the Rakshasa race. He was here to provoke us." Nye Tian suddenly turned around and stared at Xuan Yuan with sharp eyes. He said, "He molested a woman of the Rakshasa race in front of everyone. I, Ghost Huang Tian, am a Rakshasa martial artist. How could I just sit back and do nothing? I am already being merciful by not killing him." As the voice faded away, everyone was shocked. From the coldness in Nye Tian's eyes, they could clearly feel Nye Tian's anger. Just as everyone had expected, and Xuan Yuan had gone ahead to select the person who would present the gift. Bastard Bullsh *T. And Xuan Yuan felt that everyone was looking at him differently, so he shouted in a low voice. "Humph!" Nye Tian stared at Xuan Yuan and said in a cold tone, "And Xuan Yuan, tell me, if you did not go too far, why would I attack you? With the status of the Rakshasa race in the Shura race, what good would I get from attacking you?" Upon hearing Nye Tian's words, the look in everyone's eyes flickered. The Rakshasa race had the lowest status among the 5 Shura races. As a member of the Rakshasa race, Nye Tian had no reason to attack Xuan Yuan. It seemed that Xuan Yuan had crossed the line. "You!" Xuan Yuan's expression changed. He shouted and pointed at Nye Tian. "How would I know why you attacked me? In any case, you're the one who left the sword mark on my face. You're humiliating me and the Dark Wing Azura clan." "Shut up! Shut up!" As soon as Xuan Yuan finished speaking, 2 growls were heard at the same time. One was clear, the other deep. Nye Tian's eyes narrowed. The 2 people who spoke at the same time were the Saint Demon Patriarch and Tang Yu. The Saint Demon Patriarch frowned and looked over when he heard the others speak. Tang Yu took a step forward and bowed slightly. "Progenitor, this is the fault of our Dark Wing Azura tribe. On behalf of the Dark Wing Azura tribe, I would like to apologize to Ghost Huang Tian and the Rakshasa tribe." With these words, she actually bowed to Nye Tian and the Rakshasa people to express her apology. This scene made everyone's expression darken. They were confused. A member of the Dark Wing Shura race was apologizing to the Rakshasa race. This was unheard of. "Tang Yu, what right do you have to represent the Dark Wing Shura race?" As soon as Tang Yu finished speaking, the Dark Wing Crown Prince, Unwufeng, rebuked coldly. "Because I am the elder princess of the Dark Wing Shura race." Tang Yu's eyes flashed as she stared at Unwufeng. Hearing Tang Yu's words, Nye Tian's eyes couldn't help but tremble. He was extremely surprised. He never expected Tang Yu to be the elder princess of the Dark Wing Shura race. Then how did she appear in the chaos abyss of the 3,000 lesser worlds? She must have had a similar experience as Nyeyuro. For some reason, she was abandoned in the chaos abyss. However, being abandoned in the 3,000 lesser worlds from the sacred world was really strange. "Elder princess?" Unwufeng looked at Tang Yu and said cold, "Your surname is Tang. Who admits that you are the elder princess of the Dark Wing Shura race? I think you are a bastard." Tang Yu's brows were tightly knitted together as her eyes turned murderous. Clearly, she was extremely furious, but she eventually repressed it. She said coldly, "Unwoofing, do you dare say such words in front of father?" Enough. Unwoofing wanted to say something else, but he was interrupted by the Saint Demon Patriarch's deep roar. This is the Saint Demon's secret realm. It is not a place for the Dark Wing Shura race to deal with family matters. The Saint Demon Patriarch said in a deep voice, "This matter ends here. No one is to mention it again." Yes. Unwoofing was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only bow and leave. Tang Yuyu bowed and left as well, but her cold eyes were fixed on Unwoofing. Chapter 3147. A chance, huh? Nia Tian looked at Saint Devil Grand Master and his face froze. "Let the Rakshasa people come out and let the other 4 races choose," Saint Devil Grand Master said coldly. Actually, the Saint Devil Grand Master was not in charge of the givers. It was just that every time the Saint Devil secret realm opened, the givers of the Rakshasa people would be divided among the other 4 races. As time went by, the givers of the Saint Devil Grand Master were carried out right under his nose. After hearing what Saint Devil Grand Master said, Nye Tian frowned and his face darkened. He already knew about the givers, but he did not expect it to start so soon. He was still thinking about how to deal with the givers, and did not expect it to start so soon. At the same time, Desolate Ghost Boundless Ghost's face darkened as well. Giving the givers to the other 4 races was the most shameful moment for the Rakshasa people. Yuluo and the others did not only look bad, but also hopeless. Their faces were like dead ashes. Once they were chosen by the other 4 races, they would live in shame for the rest of their lives. They might even become the playthings of others. But they had no right to refuse. They could only accept. This situation was indeed hopeless. After the Saint Devil Grand Master finished his words, the crowd started to laugh. The other 4 races looked at the givers of the Rakshasa people with disdain and expectation. They were even whispering, "The quality of the givers of the Rakshasa people is not bad. These girls have all reached the false divine level. Not bad indeed. Very talented, and all of them are as pretty as flowers. That gift giver is not bad. Her little face is so pink and tender that water can be squeezed out. I really want to go up and bite a few times." Many voices were heard, and some of them were even using dirty words. Although these people's voices were low, Nye Tian could hear them clearly. "No." At this moment, he roared in his heart and said in a deep voice, "I can't let this happen." At this moment, Nye Tian had a voice in his heart. "Even if I only have to be a Rakshasa for a month, I cannot let the givers continue. Benefactors of the Rakshasa clan, what are you waiting for?" At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master saw that no one stood out. His face darkened and he said cold. The countenances of Yuluo and the others changed as they looked at the boundless desolate ghost. The boundless desolate ghost had a helpless look on his face. In the end, he steeled his heart and nodded. He had no choice but to do so. Yuluo and the others walked out with despair on their faces. Wait. But at this moment, a deep voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone to be taken aback as they looked over. "It's that kid again, Gui Huangtian." When the crowd saw the face of the person who spoke, their faces stiffened and they cried out in surprise. The person who suddenly spoke was none other than Nye Tian. "Ghost Huangtian, what do you want?" Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nye Tian, his face dark and cold. "Grand Master, this time, the Rakshasa clan did not prepare a benefactor." Nye Tian turned to look at the Saint Devil Grand Master and said in a deep voice, "What did you say?" The Saint Devil Grand Master was shocked by Nye Tian's words, as if he thought he had heard it wrong. "I said, the Rakshasa clan did not prepare a benefactor," Nye Tian said calmly. As soon as he finished his words, the crowd was in an uproar. The Rakshasa clan did not prepare a benefactor? Is this a joke? This kid is crazy, isn't he? There are dozens of female warriors in the Rakshasa clan. If they are not benefactors, then what are they? I think among the benefactors there is someone he loves. That's why he does not want to give his benefactor to the 4 clans. How is that possible? Who does he think he is? If he says there are no benefactors, then there are no benefactors. The crowd was discussing, and they looked at Nye Tian with murderous eyes. Ghost Wasteland, the benefactor is a rule set by the 5 Shura clans a long time ago. You are not making things up. The Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nye Tian and said in a deep voice, I will give you one chance. You can take back what you just said. Grand Master, I made it clear. I will not take back what I just said. Nye Tian raised his head and looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master. He said, the benefactor is a rule set a long time ago. I think this rule is useless. Useless? The Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nye Tian, and his eyes shrank. His face darkened. Nye Tian's words made the crowd explode again. This kid is crazy. Who does he think he is? It is a rule set by the ancestors of the 5 Shura clans. How can he say it is useless? This guy is an idiot. How can he say such words so casually? I don't know why the Rakshasa race would send someone like this into the Saint Devil secret realm. Maybe he is a young master. Just because he is talented, he thinks he is so great. He thinks everyone in the world has to listen to him. The crowd was talking, and their eyes were filled with coldness. They wanted to tear Nye Tian into pieces. People from Ghost Wasteland were shocked too. They did not know what to do. They did not expect Nye Tian to be so overbearing. He just said to the Saint Devil Grand Master that the benefactor would be useless. Ghost Wasteland, do you know what you are talking about? At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nye Tian with a gloomy face. He said coldly with a strong pressure. When he first saw Nye Tian, he thought that the latter was a talented martial artist. But now, he could not help but wonder if there was something wrong with Nye Tian's brain. Grandmaster, I know what I am talking about. Nye Tian's face was calm. He looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master and said, Grand Master, please tell me, what can I do to invalidate the rule of the giver? The Saint Devil Grand Master was shocked. He did not expect Nye Tian to ask such a question. Grand Master, as long as I can invalidate the benefactor rule, I can do anything. Nye Tian looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master and said in a deep voice. His eyes were full of confidence. The Saint Devil Grand Master frowned, and his expression changed. He did not expect a mere second-stage, pseudo-saint martial artist to be so calm in front of him. He could tell that Nye Tian's calmness at this moment was definitely not an act. This calmness came from his strong confidence in his own power. A person who could be so confident was definitely a warrior with great willpower. What is the Grand Master thinking? At this moment, the crowd saw the Saint Devil Grand Master was silent, as if he was thinking about something. They could not help but ask in a low voice, was the Saint Devil Grand Master really considering Nye Tian's words? Nye Tian looked calm. He looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master, waiting for him to speak. Chapter 31:48. Holy Demon Destruction. Saint Devil Grand Master's voice was very calm, but it was like a steel needle piercing everyone's ears. Unbelievable! Saint Devil Grand Master really gave Nye Tian a chance. This meant that Saint Devil Grand Master took Nye Tian's words seriously. In everyone's eyes, Nye Tian was like an idiot. What he said was crazy. How could he take it seriously? Thank you, Grand Master. While everyone was still in shock, Nye Tian came back to his senses. He quickly bowed and thanked the Saint Devil Grand Master. Luo Sha kid, don't thank me just yet. Wait until you do what I told you to do. The Saint Devil Grand Master said in a deep voice. However, he was looking at Nye Tian with anticipation in his eyes. Ghost Desolate won't let you down, Patriarch. Nye Tian smiled faintly, his eyes brimming with confidence. Although the other 4 races were not happy about it, They had no choice but to put aside the matter of the giver for now. Saint Devil Grand Master began to explain the Holy Demon Lake. In the next 10 days, everyone would enter the Holy Demon Lake to train. The Holy Demon Lake was filled with powerful Holy Demon Destruction power. This power was very strong, and it would greatly improve the training of warriors. But at the same time, the Holy Demon Destruction power was also very oppressive to warriors. The Holy Demon Lake was divided into 5 levels according to the strength of the Holy Demon Destruction power: 1 level, 10 level, 100 level, 1000 level, and 10 level. Saint Devil Grand Master wanted Nye Tian to enter the deepest level of the Holy Demon Lake, the 10 level. Because of the Holy Demon Destruction power, the Holy Demon Lake not only had high requirements for warriors' strength, but it also had high requirements for warriors' talent. From 1 level to 10 level, the requirement for warriors' strength and talent was getting higher and higher. Normally, only warriors who had reached the peak of false holiness and were extremely talented could enter the 10 level. Otherwise, the power of the holy demon's all-annihilation was enough to destroy a martial artist in an instant. After introducing the situation of the sacred Devil Lake, Saint Devil Grand Master said, "Remember, do not try to be brave. In the sacred Devil Lake, choose a suitable place to cultivate. Do not try to challenge the limit of your martial body. It is very dangerous." "Yes," everyone replied in unison. Their gazes toward the sacred demon lake involuntarily turned fervent. Saint Devil Grand Master frowned and thought to himself, "This time, I wonder how many people will die in the Saint Devil Lake." Although he had repeatedly warned them not to act recklessly, there would always be people who didn't know what was good for them. They insisted on challenging the limits of the martial body and eventually died under the pressure of the Saint Fiend annihilation. "Now you can enter the Divine Devil Lake." Saint Devil Grand Master glanced at everyone and said in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, someone could no longer hold back and leaped into the demonic Saint Lake. Plop! Thump! Splash! Numerous figures leaped into the demonic Saint Lake. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the people present were gone. Your Highness, Saintess, let us enter as well." Nye Tian saw that it was about time, so he looked at Desolate Ghost and Yuluo and said, "Yes." Desolate Ghost looked at Nye Tian. He wanted to say something, but he did not. Just now, Nye Tian had done what he wanted to do, but did not dare to do. How could he feel good about watching his own clansmen being picked up like objects? Although Nye Tian's actions seemed reckless, and even a little stupid, at least it gave the Rakshasa people a glimmer of hope. Then, Nye Tian and the rest did not hesitate and leaped into the demonic Saint Lake. The instant he entered the demonic Sage Lake, Nye Tian immediately felt an immense pressure pressing down on him from all directions. It was extremely terrifying and made him feel as though he couldn't breathe. This pressure is so strong. At the side, a few girls could not withstand the pressure. Their faces turned red, and their bodies looked like they were about to explode. Following that, bloody scars appeared on the faces of these girls, looking extremely horrifying. "Hurry up and let them out." Nye Tian used his spiritual sense, and sensed that the blood chi in the bodies of these girls was slowly turning violent. He immediately realized that something was wrong. Yes. Desolate Ghost also sensed the abnormality. With a wave of his hand, he sent the girls out of the demonic Saint Lake. Ah! At that moment, a tragic cry sounded not far away. Following that, a cultivator's body exploded, turning into a pool of blood. When the Rakshasa cultivators saw this, their eyes widened in shock. It was obvious that the cultivator who exploded had been forcefully crushed by the demonic saint power of the demonic Saint Lake. Luckily, Nye Tian and Desolate Ghost had reacted in time. Otherwise, the girls of the Rakshasa tribe would have exploded like that person. Listen carefully. Do not force yourself. If you feel the blood chi in your body rising or becoming unstable, Stop immediately and head to the surface of the lake. Do you understand? After experiencing what happened earlier, the boundless, desolate ghost felt a lingering fear in his heart. He swept his gaze over everyone and said in a deep voice, since he was the one who had brought the Rakshasa tribe to the demonic saint mystic ground, he would bring everyone back safely. Yes. The others nodded their heads in agreement. This concerned their lives. How could they treat it lightly? Nyetian. Following this, Desolate Ghost looked at Nyetian and was about to say something, but Nyetian raised his hand to stop him. I'll be fine. Nyetian knew what Desolate Ghost was going to say. He smiled and said, I've already passed the 3 trials. The demonic saint power is nothing to me. Desolate Ghost frowned and did not say anything else. He, the Rakshasa demon's son, should have been the one to abolish the offerings. However, Nyetian, an outsider, had been the one to do it. He did not feel good about it. This made him feel a strong sense of guilt towards Nyetian. Nyetian looked at Desolate Ghost and smiled faintly. Following this, he headed to the deeper parts of the lake. Although he said it casually, he was not at all relaxed in his heart. Those who could be chosen to enter the demonic saint mystic ground were all talented cultivators. Among the Asura tribes, they were rare existences. However, there was actually someone who was unable to endure it the moment he entered the sage demon lake, and was only at the level of 1 destruction, and his body exploded. The pressure of the demonic saint power was unimaginable. However, Nyetian wanted to enter the deepest part of the demonic saint lake, the realm of all annihilation. The pressure in his heart was naturally immense. Most importantly, he had no way out. He had to enter the realm of all annihilation. If he could not enter, Yulua and the others would really become the offerings. Seeing Nyetian's figure, the boundless ghost hastily followed after him. The others followed suit. At the same time, above the demonic saint lake, Saint Devil Grand Master waved his hand in the air, and an image appeared. It was the reflection of the demonic saint lake. I am looking forward to seeing how many people will be able to enter the realm of destruction this time. Saint Devil Grand Master stared at the image with a smile on his face. The demonic saint blood had been waiting for its master for too long. Chapter 3149. The Realm of Destruction in the Demon Lake. Nyetian was moving very fast. He was like a fish swimming towards the deeper part of the lake. By now, he had reached the 2nd level of the Demon Lake, the Destruction Realm. He could clearly feel that the oppressive force in the surrounding space had become extremely strong. At the moment, there were less than 10 people around him. Do any of you feel uncomfortable? Desolate Ghost felt that he was about to enter the 3rd level of the Demon Lake. He turned around and asked the people behind him, Your Highness, I can't do it anymore. I can only stay here with you. Someone could not take it anymore and said with a pale face, I can't do it either. Blood is a bit unstable, another person said. Okay. Desolate Ghost looked at the 2 people and said, Go back to the upper part of the water and train here. Yes. The 2 agreed and turned around to go to the upper part of the water. Nyetian, however, didn't think too much about it, and continued to head deeper into the water. Very quickly, he felt that the pressure between the water layers had clearly become stronger, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He knew that he had reached the 3rd level, the Destruction Realm. After entering the Destruction Realm, Nyetian suddenly felt that the pressure in his body was even more terrifying. However, his martial body was strong. The pressure in the Destruction Realm was not enough to threaten him. But the others did not have it so easy. Beside Nyetian, except for Desolate Ghost and Yuluo, the other people's expressions changed. Nyetian turned around and said, This is the 100 Extermination Realm. You can stop here. Don't go any further. Yes. The others nodded and sat down cross-legged, entering the state of training. Their flushed faces looked better. Let's continue. Nyetian smiled and said. He felt that there was not much change in Desolate Ghost and Uluo's aura. The two agreed and continued deeper into the water. At the same time, in the sky above the demon lake. Not bad. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the image in front of him and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He smiled with satisfaction. At this time, in the image, there were several dots of light that had entered the fourth level, the realm of Thousand Annihilation. There were also dozens of light dots that had entered the third level, the realm of Hundred Annihilation. In the illusory scene, every point of view represented a martial artist. Saint Devil Grand Master was satisfied with their performance. He hadn't expected that so many people would be able to enter the Hundred Annihilation and Thousand Annihilation realms. Saint Devil Grand Ancestor couldn't help but smile and say, "Perhaps someone can really enter the realm of annihilation." Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly saw a spot of light on the illusory image approaching the fifth level, the realm of annihilation. Saint Devil Grand Master was shocked by what he had just seen. In the next moment, the speck of light flickered and entered the realm of infinite destruction. "We are in!" Saint Devil Grand Master was so excited that he almost shouted. If it weren't for the fact that there were some people from the 5 Azura clans around, he would have laughed hysterically. These people couldn't even handle the realm of annihilation. They just entered the sacred Devil Lake, and they came out right away. In other words, they were the weakest among the 5 Azura clans. Saint Devil Grand Master stared at the illusory scene with his eyes lit up. His body was shaking slightly. After a while, Saint Devil Grand Master calmed down and said to himself, "This warrior who entered the realm of annihilation should be the prince of Fei Tian Shura clan." The pressure of the sacred Devil Annihilation was very strong. If one didn't have super strength and talent, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Saint Devil Grand Master had already sensed that among all the warriors, the prince of Fei Tianchen, was the strongest. The one he had high hopes for was also Fei Tianchen. As for Nye Tian, he just mentioned it on a whim. After all, Nye Tian was too weak. He was only a rank 2 pseudo-holiness. If Nye Tian had the same cultivation as Fei Tianchen, the Saint Devil Grand Master thought that he could enter the realm of annihilation. The reason why he made a promise to Nye Tian that he would consider the possibility of the gift being nullified after entering the realm of annihilation was because he was hoping for luck. What if Nye Tian really was a peerless genius? But now, he was more interested in Fei Tianchen. "Kid from Fei Tian Shura clan, do you have a chance of becoming the sacred Devil Bloodlord?" Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the light spot in the realm of annihilation. His eyes were shaking slightly, and he was very excited. But then, the light in his eyes slowly dimmed. Because the light spot stopped not long after. Obviously, it couldn't bear the pressure of the realm of annihilation anymore. Still a little bit more. Saint Devil Grand Master sighed, his face full of regret. If this light spot could enter the bottom of the realm of annihilation, it would mean that he could really become the sacred Devil Bloodlord. But now it was basically impossible. Saint Devil Grand Master didn't even bother to watch anymore, because he didn't think anyone else would enter the realm of annihilation. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. The spots of light on the illusory image had basically all stopped. This meant that most of the warriors had found their positions and started to cultivate steadily. At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master found that a few light spots were still moving towards the deeper part of the water. These light spots weren't fast, but they were very stable. They didn't flicker at all. This meant that the blood chi of these light spots was very stable. The sacred Devil Bloodlord's annihilation hadn't caused any fatal pressure on them yet. They are almost at the realm of annihilation. Then, Saint Devil Grand Master stared at the light spots. His eyes lit up again, and he didn't even blink. After a while, a few light spots stopped, but there were still 2 light spots that were still moving towards the realm of annihilation. And these 2 light spots were approaching each other. Do they know each other? Saint Devil Grand Master frowned and asked in confusion. But then, his eyes suddenly flashed, and he was shocked to the extreme. His whole face froze. Those two light spots had entered the realm of annihilation at the same time. Another two people had entered the realm of annihilation. This time, there were three people who had entered the realm of annihilation. How could Saint Devil Grand Master not be surprised? Some people down below saw Saint Devil Grand Master's excitement, but they were confused. They didn't know what was going on. At the same time, in the 5th level of Saint Devil Lake, the realm of annihilation, a figure appeared, slowly and steadily moving down. This figure was none other than Nye Tian. He had successfully entered the realm of annihilation. However, his current expression was extremely ugly. His facial features were almost distorted under the immense pressure. But the blood chi inside him was very stable. This undoubtedly meant that he still had the potential to go deeper than the realm of annihilation. With Nye Tian's strength, he could enter the realm of annihilation thanks to the formation of heavenly path inside him. Without the formation of heavenly path, he wouldn't have been able to come here. At this moment, Nye Tian slowed down. He looked not far away and saw a figure swimming towards him. This figure was none other than Tang 13. Chapter 3150. Absolute Een Ghost Eyes. As Nye Tian watched Tang 13 approach, his lips curled into a faint smile. Tang 13 being able to enter the realm of annihilation was within his expectations. Tang 13's martial talent was shocking. It would be strange if she couldn't enter the realm of annihilation. Desolate Ghost, nice new name. Tang 13 soon arrived at Nye Tian's side, a faint smile on her face. The first thing she said was actually a joke. Nye Tian smiled, a gratified expression on his face. Not bad. After so long, Tang 13 didn't change much. This made Nye Tian feel good. Tang 13, are you okay? Then, Nye Tian noticed that Tang 13's eyes were a little strange. They were dark like the abyss and he couldn't help but feel nervous. It was obvious that Tang 13 was using the ghost eyes to resist the pressure of the demonic annihilation. The demonic annihilation inside the demonic sage lake was not a joke. If the martial body couldn't handle the pressure, it would explode and die. Nye Tian was afraid that Tang 13 would force herself. That would be very dangerous. I'm fine. Tang 13 smiled. Don't worry, I won't force myself. That's good. Nye Tian sensed Tang 13's martial body. Her energy was stable and her yuan meridians were calm. Only then did he relax. Nye Tian, how did you become a member of the Rakshasa tribe? Tang 13 looked at Nye Tian suspiciously and asked with a smile. Nye Tian didn't hide anything. He briefly explained how he entered the Decimo territory. I see. After hearing his words, Tang 13 couldn't help but smile. Her eyes glittered with a strange light as she looked at Nye Tian and said, It seems that you've been through a lot during this period of time. Aren't you the same? Nye Tian smiled faintly and said, Tell me about yourself. Seeing Tang 13 again, Nye Tian had many questions in his mind. Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu had become the Darkwing Azura, and Tang Yuyu had become the eldest princess of the Darkwing Azura tribe. Also, Nye Tian could feel that Tang 13's ghost eye had evolved to a level that he could never have imagined. Back then, Nye Tian had thought that the Blood Moon Ghost Eye was the ultimate form of the Ghost Eye. But now, it seemed like that wasn't the case. Tang 13's Ghost Eye had far surpassed the Blood Moon Ghost Eye. At the very least, it had surpassed the Blood Moon Ghost Eyes that Nye Tian had expected. Tang 13 laughed and began to talk about her own matters. It turned out that after Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu parted ways with Nye Tian in the forbidden land of nine-headed infants, they went to another domain. At that time, Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu already had some clues about Tang Yuyu's past. Later on, the two of them entered a secret realm and accidentally attracted the attention of the Darkwing Azura clan. It was the Dark Wing Azura clan that brought the two of them to the sacred world. After Tang 13 finished, her lips twitched. She said, "At that time, we only wanted to solve the mystery of Tang Yuyu's past. We did not expect to accidentally enter the sacred world. We also did not expect Tang Yuyu to be the eldest princess of the Dark Wing Azura tribe. This is indeed unexpected." Nie Tian laughed and said, "This can be considered a blessing in disguise for you guys. Tang 13 and Tang Yuyu entering the sacred world seemed to be the right choice. If they did not enter the sacred world, the two of them would not have reached their current strength. Tang 13 and Nie Tian were the same. They were not from the Azura tribe. They used some kind of disguise. He entered the Saint Demon secret realm for Tang Yuyu. Nie Tian, we have entered the realm of annihilation. There is no need to continue. Let's cultivate here." At this time, Tang 13 looked at Nie Tian and said calmly, "Saint Demon Grand Master's request to Nie Tian was to enter the realm of annihilation. But now, Nie Tian and Tang 13 were already in the realm of annihilation. There was no need to continue. Moreover, with their strength, entering the realm of annihilation was already the limit of a martial body. Tang 13 could already feel the blood in her body stirring. If they continued to go deeper, they would be in danger. It should be known that other than Nie Tian and Tang 13, Desolate Ghost, Yuluo, Tang Yuyu, and the others had not entered the realm of annihilation. One could imagine how strong the pressure of the realm of annihilation was. Looking at Tang 13, Nie Tian frowned and said in a low voice, "Tang 13, do you sense a strange power in the water down there?" Under the immense pressure, his expression was extremely unsightly. At this time, he had a very strange feeling. Under the effect of the holy demon annihilation, the backlash of the godfiend body in his body seemed to be weakening. It was this feeling that made him want to go deeper into the water. Although the pressure on his martial body was already very strong, with the help of the formation of heavenly Tao, his blood was very stable. "Yes, I felt it too." Tang 13 paused for a second and said, "My ghost, I sense some aura. It seems that at the bottom of the water, there is a huge whirlpool of the holy demon annihilation. The holy demon annihilation in the entire water is released by that whirlpool." The corner of Nie Tian's mouth curled up, and a strange smile appeared on his face. He had the same feeling. He guessed that at the bottom of the realm of annihilation, there must be the source of the holy demon annihilation. At this time, he had an idea. Perhaps if he could get close to the source of the holy demon annihilation, the backlash of the godfiend body in his body might be resolved. He could feel that the holy demon annihilation had a strong weakening effect on the backlash of the godfiend body. If he could get close to the source of the holy demon annihilation, even if he could not completely resolve the backlash of the godfiend body, it would definitely be weakened. This was very beneficial to him. The biggest problem that Nie Tian was facing now was that the power of the formation of heavenly Tao and the backlash of the godfiend body was too strong. It was too much of a burden on his martial body. If he could weaken the backlash of the godfiend body, the power of the formation of heavenly Tao would naturally weaken as well. This would make it much easier for his martial body. "Tang 13, can you still go deeper?" Nie Tian looked at Tang 13 and asked in a low voice. "Yes." The corner of Tang 13's mouth twitched as an eerie smile appeared on her face. Then, something strange happened. His pair of ghostly eyes slowly changed. His eyes were blood-red and dark, extremely terrifying. Nie Tian's gaze froze when he saw this. At this moment, Tang 13's ghost eye was not displaying the power of the blood moon ghost eye, but an even stronger power. This is the absolute Een ghost eye. Tang 13 looked at Nie Tian's shocked expression and knew what he was thinking. She faintly smiled. "Absolute Een ghost eye?" Nie Tian frowned. His expression was even more shocked. He was right. The blood moon ghost eye was not the ultimate form of the ghost eye. The ghost I was in even more terrifying form. Chapter 31:51. Holy Demon Destruction, Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying tremor came from the Holy Devil Lake. The terrifying ripples were like the roars of a ferocious beast, letting out low rumbling sounds. Nye Tian could feel the enormous force coming at him, causing him to involuntarily narrow his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly felt that the blood in his body had gone berserk and was surging violently. His entire martial body was filled with a terrifying feeling of being torn apart, as if it was about to explode. Crap! Nye Tian's expression flickered. He had never imagined that something like this would happen. His blood qi was supposed to be stable. Why did it suddenly go berserk? And how did that sudden and terrifying tremor happen? Nye Tian. At this moment, Tang 13 had the same reaction. Her eyes were shaking as she shouted out Nye Tian's name. Nye Tian froze. He could feel the blood qi in Tang 13's body going berserk. At the same time, all the warriors in the Holy Demon Lake had the same reaction. What happened? Why did my blood qi suddenly go berserk? Could it be that the Holy Demon destruction in the Holy Demon Lake suddenly became stronger? That's impossible. Am I going to die here? The crowd of martial artists was shocked and their faces were pale. But then, the terrifying ripples went through the water, and the entire Holy Demon Lake calmed down. Meanwhile, all the martial artists' berserk blood qi began to slowly calm down. What's going on? Nye Tian couldn't help but furrow his brow. Just now, he was ready to use his heavenly energy to suppress the berserk blood qi. But he did not expect the berserk blood qi to return to normal. So weird. Tang 13 was confused as well. She did not know what was going on. At the same time, above the Holy Demon Lake, Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the Holy Demon Lake. His face was frozen. His lips were trembling, but he could not say a word. The warriors on the ground saw the expression of the Saint Devil Grand Master and were confused. What is wrong with the Grand Master? He seems very excited. Earlier, the Holy Demon Lake shook a little. Could something have happened inside the lake? At most, someone will die inside. What else can happen? The crowd was discussing, not knowing what had happened to make the Grand Master react like this. Oh my God! At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master, who was still in shock, finally reacted. His eyes were trembling with excitement, and even hot tears were rolling down his cheeks. He never expected that the Saint Fiend Exterminating Seal, which had been dormant for countless years, would actually have a reaction. The strange movement of the demonic Saint Lake just now was caused by the demonic Saint Annihilation Seal. The Exterminating Holy Demon Seal was a powerful seal hidden deep within the Holy Demon Lake. It contained boundless exterminating holy demon energy. The entire demonic lake's demonic annihilation power came from the demonic annihilation seal. It was precisely because the holy demonic exterminating seal was at the bottom of the lake that the holy demonic exterminating power grew stronger from the surface to the bottom. Saint Devil Grand Master did not expect that someone would trigger the Saint Devil Extermination Seal. Oh my God, you finally opened your eyes! At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master could not control his excitement anymore. He started laughing crazily, like a madman. Seeing this, the crowd was even more confused. They did not know what had happened to Saint Devil Grand Master. The Saint Devil Exterminating Seal was triggered, which meant that the Saint Devil Exterminating power had been found. The person who could absorb the Saint Devil Exterminating power was the person who could merge with the Saint Devil Blood, the Saint Devil Blood Master. The Saint Devil Blood had been waiting for its true master for far too long. At this moment, someone had triggered the Saint Devil Exterminating Seal. How could Saint Devil Grand Master not be excited? Who is the one who triggered the Saint Devil Exterminating Seal? After a long time, Saint Devil Grand Master finally calmed down. He stared at the image of the Saint Devil Soul, focusing on the 3 light spots in the 5th level of the exterminating plane. The person who triggered the Saint Devil exterminating seal must be one of the 3 who entered the exterminating plane. Saint Devil Grandmaster was almost certain that the first person to enter the exterminating plane was Fei Tianchun. However, he did not believe that Fei Tianchun triggered the Saint Devil exterminating seal. After all, Fei Tianchun stopped at a place far away from the bottom of the Holy Devil Lake. Then, Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes focused on the edge of the 5th level. There were 2 light spots that were almost touching each other. The person who triggered the Saint Devil exterminating seal should be one of them. Saint Devil Grand Master frowned and thought to himself. These 2 light spots had been there for a long time. Saint Devil Grand Master guessed that these 2 people knew each other. Their chi and blood were very stable, which meant they had great potential to enter the bottom of the Holy Devil Lake. However, Saint Devil Grand Master could not confirm which one of them was the one who triggered the Saint Devil exterminating seal. Don't worry. After 10 days, everyone will come out of the Saint Devil Lake. Then we will see. Saint Devil Grand Master grinned and murmured. At this moment, his eyes suddenly froze. It turned out that in the illusory image, the 2 dots of light had actually started to move and were heading deeper into the water. Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes lit up. He was looking forward to it. At the same time, in the exterminating plane of the Holy Devil Lake, Nie Tian and Tang 13 moved, going deeper into the water. The Holy Devil Lake had calmed down. Everything was normal, as if nothing had happened. After a while, Nie Tian and Tang 13 arrived at the middle of the exterminating plane. Nie Tian's face looked even worse. His martial body was suffering unimaginable pain under the terrifying pressure. However, the great formation of heaven had stabilized Nie Tian's chi and blood. At this moment, Nie Tian was confused. He looked at Tang 13 strangely and said, Tang 13, why is your chi and blood so stable all of a sudden? When they were in the shallow water of the exterminating plane, Tang 13 almost could not hold it anymore. But now that they were in the middle water, Tang 13's chi and blood were even more stable. This made Nie Tian feel strange. He could not understand. Even if Tang 13 used her absolute ghost eyes, it should not be this scary. The eye power of the absolute ghost eyes should not be able to resist the pressure of the exterminating plane. Tang 13 also had a strange expression on her face. After a moment of hesitation, she said, Nie Tian, when I activated my vanishing shadow ghost eyes just now, I had a very strange feeling, as if some kind of power had entered my ghost eyes. Now I do not feel any pressure at all. It is like the exterminating plane is my own power. It does not pressure me anymore. Nie Tian stared at Tang 13 in astonishment. For a moment, he was at a loss for words. Chapter 31:52. An angry wolf. Nie Tian, what's wrong? Tang 13 frowned when she saw Nie Tian freeze. Nie Tian's eyes widened as he stared at Tang 13 in shock. That must be it. Tang 13 froze, unsure of what Nie Tian was talking about. Nie Tian suddenly wondered if the strange trembling of the demonic lake had something to do with Tang 13. This was because after Tang 13 activated her absolute ghost eyes, the sage demon lake started to tremble. If this was a coincidence, then it was too much of a coincidence. More importantly, Tang 13 said that a strange power flowed into his ghost eye, making him unable to feel the pressure of the demonic extermination holy power. Therefore, Nie Tian had a guess. The moment Tang 13 opened his ghost eye, some kind of energy was activated. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Nie Tian, what on earth did you discover? Tang 13 frowned as she looked at the shocked expression on Nie Tian's face. Nie Tian calmed down a lot and went on with his speculation. Is that even possible? Tang 13 took a long time to come back to her senses. She asked with a shocked expression on her face. Of course it's possible. It's very possible. Nia Tian's eyes widened. The energy of your ghost eye is very similar to the demonic extermination force. The moment you opened your absolute darkness ghost eyes, it was very likely that you triggered the source of the demonic extermination force. Tang 13 frowned. His expression was not good. He was starting to think that Nia Tian's guess might be true. However, he didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing for him. Don't think too much about it. Let's go check out the source of the demonic extermination force. Nia Tian knew what Tang 13 was worried about and smiled faintly. Okay. Tang 13 nodded, but he couldn't help but worry for Nia Tian. He couldn't feel any pressure at all, so he was fine. However, Nia Tian's expression became more and more unsightly. Tang 13 wasn't sure if Nia Tian would be able to make it to the bottom of the Holy Devil Lake. I'm fine. Let's go. Nia Tian could tell that Tang 13 was worried. He grinned and moved first, heading deeper into the water. Soon, the two of them entered the depths of the realm of annihilation. Nia Tian, there's someone there. Suddenly, Tang 13 realized something. She pointed at a silhouette not too far away and screamed. They didn't expect that someone would be so deep in the water. It's him. Nia Tian looked over and saw a familiar face. He couldn't help but laugh. The figure not far away was none other than Fei Tian, Fei Sirius Chen. How is this possible? At the same time, Chen also noticed Nia Tian and Tang 13. His eyes widened and he screamed in shock. His face was full of disbelief. He couldn't believe his eyes. There were people here, and two of them at that. The next moment, when he saw Nia Tian and Tang 13's faces clearly, the shock in his eyes intensified. He had never imagined that Nia Tian would be among the people standing in front of him. Nia Tian only had the strength of a second-rank pseudo-sage. How could he be here? How could Nia Tian withstand the terrifying pressure of the realm of annihilation? At this moment, Chen wasn't just shocked. He felt like he had been dealt a heavy blow. He had thought that he was the only one who had entered the realm of annihilation. He didn't expect that there would be two people who were weaker than him in the realm of annihilation. Only now did he realize how terrifying Nia Tian's talent was. It was terrifying enough to make one's hair stand on end. A second-rank pseudo-sage entering the depths of the realm of annihilation was too much. Prince Fei Tian, stay here and cultivate. We won't be keeping you company any longer. Meanwhile, Nia Tian waved at Prince Fei Tian from afar. After greeting him, he continued to head deeper into the water with Tang 13. Ghost Huang Tian Yu. Chen, who was not the heavenly wolf, stared at the backs of Nia Tian and Tang 13, his eyes filled with blood-red killing intent. He clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Nia Tian dared to look down on him. Unforgivable! But in the next moment, he took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. His martial flesh had reached its limit under the pressure of the sacred demonic annihilation. It would be a tragedy if his blood went berserk due to his anger, causing his body to explode. Gui Huangtian, you Rakshasa traitor! I won't let you go! A moment later, Gui Huangtian calmed down. His eyes were cold as he snapped. There was already a grudge between him and Nia Tian. Furthermore, Nia Tian had mocked him, making him unable to tolerate it. Most importantly, Nia Tian's outstanding talent had made him feel threatened. As long as he had the chance, he would definitely kill Nia Tian. As for Tang 13, he would not let her go either. A while later, Gui Huangtian completely calmed down and returned to his cultivation state. He was confident that his strength would reach the 9th-rank pseudo-sage after cultivating for 10 days in the realm of annihilation. Meanwhile, Nia Tian and Tang 13 continued to head deeper into the water. As they approached the bottom of the lake, Nia Tian could feel the pressure in the water getting stronger. A moment later, his forehead was covered in sweat. His face was as pale as a piece of paper, giving him a terrifying appearance. Nia Tian, are you all right? Tang 13 noticed Nye Tian's strange expression and asked nervously. I'm fine. Nye Tian forced a smile and shook his head. Under the violent pressure of the sacred demonic annihilation, his martial physique was close to its limit. Luckily, he had the heavenly Tao array and the 9 heavenly Tao shackles to support him. Otherwise, he would have been crushed to a pulp. However, Nye Tian could also feel the backlash of the demonic god's body slowly weakening. This made him overjoyed and strengthened his belief that he must use the sacred demonic annihilation to weaken or even dissolve the backlash of the demonic god's body. Nye Tian, have you really thought it through? At that moment, the Ghost Emperor realized what was on Nye Tian's mind, and said in a deep voice, the demon saint power of destruction can indeed neutralize the backlash, but your martial body might not be able to bear it. And even if it succeeds, you will experience unimaginable pain. I've thought it through. I must take the gamble. Nye Tian's eyes narrowed, revealing a strong sense of confidence. The backlash of the demonic god's body was too much of a pressure on his martial physique, and severely hindered the growth of his strength. Now that there was a chance for him to dissolve the backlash of the demonic god's body, how could he miss it? Ghost Emperor nodded and did not say anything else. Then, Nye Tian and Tang 13 continued to head deeper into the lake. Moments later, Tang 13 seemed to have sensed something. Her eyes flickered as she exclaimed, Nye Tian, I've sensed the source of the demon-exterminating power. Chapter 31:53. I Power Shield. In the sky above the holy demon lake, Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the image in front of him and was shocked again. He could not believe what he was seeing. Those 2 dots of light had reached the bottom of the holy demon lake. The pressure at the bottom of the holy demon lake was so strong that even a rank 9 pseudo-holiness could not withstand it. This time, among the warriors of the 5 Shura families, the one with the highest cultivation was not Sirius Chin, a rank 8 pseudo-holiness. There was no rank 9 pseudo-holiness who could have reached the bottom of the holy demon lake. Saint Devil Grand Master knew that one of them must be the one who triggered the holy demon seal. Who could the other one be? It was not strange for the one who triggered the holy demon seal to reach the bottom of the lake. Because once the holy demon seal was triggered, the holy demon seal would no longer suppress that person. The one who did not trigger the holy demon seal and reach the bottom of the lake was the one who was truly talented, strong, and determined. Saint Devil Grand Master understood that to trigger the holy demon seal, one needed more than just talent and strength. More importantly, one had to have the right element. The holy demon seal was a dark power, a dark element power. If it was a warrior with another element, he would not be able to trigger the holy demon seal. Saint Devil Grand Master was looking forward to seeing the 2 dots of light in front of him. Who could they be? At the same time, at the bottom of the holy demon lake, looking at the scene below, Nye Tian was completely dumbfounded, and couldn't speak for a long time. Is this a Tao platform? Tang 13 frowned and spoke first. She looked down at the Tao platform in astonishment. At the bottom of the lake, in the deepest area, there was a square platform. A square-shaped platform stood tall, and on top of the platform were 9 black stone pillars. Dark runes were carved all over the pillars, and they emitted an extremely strong sacred demonic aura. In the center of the 9 pillars, there was a black swirl. It was as dark as the night, very creepy. It seemed like one look at the swirl would make one fall into an endless dark abyss. After a long while, Nye Tian finally came to a realization and said in a grim voice, "That black vortex is the source of the demon extermination power." Yes. Tang 13 also calmed down and nodded. However, a strange expression could be seen on her face as she turned to Nye Tian and said, "Nye Tian, this vortex of darkness gives me a strange feeling. It's as if it's trying to lure me into it." Even Tang 13 couldn't believe what she was saying. However, this was how he felt. Could it be that this black vortex is trying to merge with your ghost eye? Nie Tian was stunned for a moment before he asked with a sunken expression. He was now certain that when Tang 13 activated her absolute darkness ghost eye, it was the black whirlpool in front of him. Since the black whirlpool was triggered by the absolute Yin ghost eye, then the temptation of the black whirlpool to Tang 13 must have come from the ghost eye. Hearing Nie Tian's words, Tang 13 froze. She said in shock, "The energy inside the black whirlpool is far too strong. With my current capabilities, I cannot merge with it." Nie Tian frowned and nodded. Then, the two of them calmed down. "Tang 13, I want to enter the platform to train." Just then, Nie Tian suddenly looked at Tang 13 and said in a low voice, "What?" Tang 13 froze, wondering if she had heard wrong. Nie Tian actually wanted to enter the Dao platform? Wasn't he crazy? Outside the platform, the pressure from the holy demonic destructive force was extremely strong. If Nie Tian entered the platform, he would be crushed to death by the holy demonic destructive force. "Tang 13, I need your help." Nie Tian knew what Tang 13 was thinking and said in a low voice, "I need you to form a shield with your eyes and send me into the platform." Tang 13's pupils constricted. She froze and couldn't speak for a long time. Nie Tian's idea was far too dangerous. If anything untoward happens, Nie Tian will die a horrible death. "Tang 13, I believe you." Nie Tian stared at Tang 13 and said in a deep voice. Following this, Nie Tian explained his situation to her and said, "Tang 13, I need the help of the holy demonic destructive force to neutralize the backlash from the godly body. Only you can help me." Tang 13 stared at Nie Tian for a long time and finally nodded. Following this, the two of them did not waste any time and began to act. Tang 13 began to unleash the power of the ghost eye and slowly formed a shield around Nie Tian's body. As he unleashed his power, the black whirlpool on the platform sensed it and began to tremble. Bang! Bang! Boom! Terrifying ripples appeared in the water, causing the entire region to go berserk. The cultivators at the sacred demon lake were shocked by the shockwave. What's going on? Why is the sacred demon lake becoming unstable all of a sudden? The power of the holy demonic destructive force in the water is getting stronger and more violent. What's going on? We can't continue cultivating. Let's go to the shallow waters first. Everyone came to their senses and headed for the shallow waters. Even though cultivating in the deep waters was faster, the shallow waters were safer. Between strength and life was obviously more important. The water suddenly started to tremble. Nie Tian ignored it and continued to tell Tang 13 to form a shield. Moments later, a thin layer of the shield was formed and stuck to Nie Tian's body like a black veil. "Nie Tian, are you sure you want to enter the platform?" Tang 13 took a deep breath and looked at Nie Tian anxiously. Nie Tian nodded his head and smiled. Then, his body moved and he stepped onto the platform. Then, he walked out of the platform, took a step forward, and landed on the platform. Boom! At this moment, Nie Tian felt a terrifying pressure appear, rushing in from all directions, adding to his body, making him feel like he was suffocating. Without panicking, he sat down cross-legged and circulated his Yuan meridians and Heaven's Path formation to resist the terrifying pressure. Luckily, Tang 13 formed a barrier around him. Otherwise, he would have been crushed to death. Following this, streams of terrifying sacred demonic destruction power surged into Nie Tian's martial flesh like wild beasts and turned into a terrifying force that surged forward. At that moment, Nie Tian felt as if his entire body had been filled with a terrifying power. Every bone, every meridian, and every drop of blood in his body was filled with excruciating pain, as if they were about to be torn apart. In an instant, a terrible pain spread throughout his body, causing Nie Tian to scream in pain. The pain he was experiencing now was more terrifying than any other time. Chapter 3154. Ghost Eye Mutation, Nie Tian. Tang 13 saw what was happening on the platform and couldn't help but tremble. She was so nervous that her heart was in her throat. She was really worried that Nye Tian would be killed by the sacred demon annihilation. But then, Nye Tian calmed down. On the platform, Nye Tian's breathing stabilized. Right now, he was still suffering from unimaginable pain, but he didn't make any noise. The sacred demon annihilation entered his body and was counteracting the power of the sacred demon body. For Nye Tian, this was a very good state. Next, as long as the sacred demon annihilation completely counteracted the power of the sacred demon body, he would be free from the oppression of the martial body. Phew! Seeing that Nye Tian's condition had stabilized, Tang 13 let out a sigh of relief and calmed down. At the same time, above the sacred demon lake, Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the scene in confusion and mumbled, "What is this person doing? He is so close to the sacred demon annihilation. Is he trying to merge with the power of the sacred demon seal?" The sacred demon seal was the core of the sacred demon lake. On the screen, there was a huge light dot. Saint Devil Grand Master saw a light that appeared next to the sacred demon seal. It seemed to be absorbing the power of the seal. He didn't expect this at all. Even if it was someone who had activated the sacred demon seal, it was unlikely that he would merge with it. The power contained in the sacred demon seal was too terrifying. The martial body of a false sacred warrior could not handle it. If it was that warrior, he would merge with the sacred demon blood and become the sacred demon blood master before merging with the sacred demon seal. Saint Devil Grand Master could not understand what he was seeing at the moment. At the bottom of the sacred demon lake, on the platform, after a long time, Nye Tian's expression gradually returned to normal, and the corners of his mouth involuntarily curled up into a faint smile. Right now, the power of the sacred demon body had been counteracted by the sacred demon annihilation. His martial body had returned to normal. The heavenly Tao array existed to maintain the stability of his martial body and resist the backlash of the God-fiend body. At this moment, the backlash from the fiend god body had disappeared, and the heavenly Tao array was no longer a burden to Nye Tian. Instead, it was a great help. Next, Nye Tian prepared to stand up and leave the platform. However, at that moment, he suddenly felt an extremely frightening power surging from the surrounding space. Like a raging wave, it rushed into his body. Not good. It's the holy demon extermination power. Nye Tian immediately reacted, his expression changing as he cried out in alarm. Oh no! At the same time, the Ghost Emperor's voice sounded out. He was extremely nervous. As it turned out, in the instant that the backlash from the fiend god body in Nye Tian's body had disappeared, the demonic fiend god annihilation power in the water had gone berserk. When the god-fiend body's backlash existed, it was actually a type of restriction on the holy fiend extermination power. As the backlash disappeared, so did the restriction. The demonic fiend extermination power rushed into Nye Tian's body like a broken dam. The demonic fiend extermination power was much stronger than the backlash from the god-fiend body. If it rushed into Nye Tian's martial body, it would be enough to destroy him instantly. Nye Tian. Outside the platform, Tang 13 suddenly realized something was wrong. His eyes widened as he screamed. Then, he took a step forward and entered the platform. The moment he stepped onto the platform, the black whirlpool above the platform suddenly emitted a loud roar, like the growl of a giant beast. In the next moment, something even more terrifying happened. Bang, bang, bang. The 9 divine and demonic pillars on the platform suddenly exploded. Hua, hua, hua. Immediately, the divine and demonic inscriptions on the divine and demonic pillars gushed out violently and rushed into Tang 13's eyes. At that moment, Tang 13 felt the terrifying force of the attack hitting his eyes. Through his eyes, it spread to his entire body. The sudden pain caused Tang 13 to scream in agony. His eyes looked like they were about to explode. On his martial body, countless dark, bloody scars appeared. The divine and demonic inscriptions actually rushed into his body through his eyes. At that moment, Nye Tian stood up. Looking at Tang 13, who was in extreme pain, he frowned and froze. At that moment, the demonic fiend extermination power no longer entered Nye Tian's body. Instead, it rushed into Tang 13's body. Nye Tian was stunned by the scene before him. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Nye Tian, hurry and leave the platform. He is about to merge with the demonic fiend's seal. Just as Nye Tian was in a daze, the Ghost Emperor's voice rang out anxiously. Nye Tian reacted immediately. In a flash, he left the platform. Boom! As soon as he left the platform, the black vortex, which was the sacred demon exterminating seal, shuddered violently and then exploded, turning into countless sacred demon runes that surged toward Tang 13's eyes. An even more violent force rushed into Tang 13's body, bringing with it an even more terrifying pain. Tang 13 was powerless to resist. He could only endure it as he screamed in agony. Nye Tian looked at Tang 13 with a frown. He was extremely nervous. He wasn't sure if Tang 13 could withstand the power of the demonic fiend's seal. If anything happened to Tang 13 because of the demonic fiend's seal, he would never be able to forgive himself. Nye Tian, you can't help him. He can only rely on himself. The Ghost Emperor knew what Nye Tian was thinking and said in a low voice. Right now, Tang 13 could only rely on himself. No one could help him. In the blink of an eye, all the divine and demonic inscriptions entered Tang 13's eyes. Tang 13 lifted his head. His eyes were as black as the night sky. They were eerie and emitted a dark aura. His face was filled with demonic inscriptions. They looked like protruding blood vessels. It was terrifying. Nye Tian's eyes trembled uncontrollably. The blood in his body was boiling. He was more nervous than when he was in a life-or-death situation. If he knew this would happen, he would not have risked entering the platform. After a while, Tang 13 slowly calmed down. Then, his aura calmed down. The demonic inscriptions on his body and face disappeared. In the blink of an eye, Tang 13 returned to normal. Nye Tian was flabbergasted by the scene in front of him, and couldn't utter a word. When he was on the platform, he clearly felt the power of the demonic fiend's seal. Tang 13 merged with such a terrifying force and was fine? How is this possible? At the same time, the Ghost Emperor's voice rang out. Just like Nye Tian, he was confused. No matter how strong Tang 13 was, there was no way he could merge with the demonic fiend's seal in such a short period of time. Nye Tian, At this moment, Tang 13 opened her mouth. Her face was filled with astonishment. After a while, she realized what was going on and said with a silly smile, I merged with the sage demon exterminating seal. Is that okay? He didn't know what had happened either. Tang 13, are you really alright? Nye Tian snapped out of his daze and asked. I'm fine. Tang 13 shook his head, unable to hide the excitement on his face. I feel great. Especially my ghost eyes. They seem to contain limitless power. Nye Tian's face was filled with astonishment, and he was speechless for a long time. Chapter 3155. Very unusual. Upon hearing the Ghost Emperor's words, Nye Tian's pupils shrank, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. He didn't understand what the Ghost Emperor meant by the change in the ghost eyes. However, judging from the Ghost Emperor's shocked expression, this was no small matter. It's definitely the ghost eyes mutation. Right at this moment, the Ghost Emperor's voice sounded once more with a resolute and decisive expression. Ghost Emperor, what is the meaning of the ghost eye mutation? Nye Tian frowned and asked. My guess is that this kid's ghost eye mutated when it merged with the sacred demonic exterminating seal. His eye bloodline power changed on a fundamental level, allowing his ghost eye to contain the power of the sacred demonic exterminating seal. said the Ghost Emperor, his eyes blazing. If what he said was true, then Tang 13's ghost eye was terrifying. The power of the exterminating Saint Demon Seal was unimaginable. It was probably even more terrifying than the legendary 10 Great Ultimate Seals. The 10 Ultimate Seals referred to bloodline seals, which were equivalent to a type of bloodline power. However, the bloodline seal had great limitations. This was because during the early stages of a martial artist, the martial body was very weak. This was the greatest restriction on the bloodline seal. Therefore, even if the cultivators with the strongest seals reached their peak, it would still be very difficult for them to completely unleash the power of the seals in their bodies. However, the seal that was fused from the outside world was completely different. The seal of the outside world did not have any restrictions, and it was very powerful in itself. Even after fusing with a martial artist and being shackled by the martial artist's martial body, he could still maintain a terrifying power. When the Saint Demonic Exterminating Seal fused with the Ghost Eye, it seemed to have greatly expanded the Ghost Eye, allowing it to accommodate the Saint Demonic Exterminating Seal. However, the Ghost Emperor was shocked. Tang 13's ghost eye shouldn't be this strong. Everything seemed a little strange and unusual. However, the Ghost Emperor couldn't tell what exactly was unusual about it. The Ghost Emperor felt that the whole thing was very strange. In fact, the Ghost Emperor had another worry in his heart, and that was Nie Tian. There was an extremely powerful seal hidden within Nie Tian's godfiend nascent embryo. This seal was far stronger than the 10 Great Ultimate Seals. However, this seal had been temporarily sealed by a sealing gate. The sealed door was formed from the dark abyss surface of the dark abyss. Back then, the seal in Nie Tian's body had once gone out of control. The fat cat had used the surface of the dark abyss to form a sealing gate to stabilize the seal. However, Fat Cat had never told Nie Tian how powerful the seal was. The Ghost Emperor had sensed the existence of this seal a long time ago. If Nie Tian's strength reached a certain level, perhaps when he ascended to the Sage Realm, the sealed gate would not be able to restrain this seal. The Ghost Emperor couldn't understand why this seal was in Nie Tian's body. After a while, the Ghost Emperor calmed down and said to Nie Tian, "Nie Tian, this Emperor feels that this kid's ghost eye is very unusual. Tell him not to use it for the time being." "All right." Nie Tian nodded and said to Tang 13, "Tang 13, your ghost eye has just merged with the Holy Demon Seal. It is not stable yet. Try not to use it for the time being." Tang 13 nodded, but she was confused. She could tell that Nie Tian was worried about something. As for Tang 13, after the excitement, he also felt that something was wrong. Somehow, he felt that the merging of the ghost eye with the Holy Demon Seal was hiding some kind of danger. However, now was not the time to think about this. The most important thing now was to seize the time and cultivate in the Holy Demon Lake. Even though Tang 13 had merged with the Holy Demon Seal, the Holy Demon Lake's power was still there, and the holy power in the water was very dense. Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating in a territory for a year. Next, Nie Tian and Tang 13 did not waste any time. They sat down cross-legged and entered the state of cultivation. At the same time, above the Holy Demon Lake, Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the image in front of him. His old face was completely frozen. His mouth was wide open, but he could not make a sound. He was so shocked that he could not believe what he was seeing. "What's wrong with the Grand Master?" Seeing the Saint Devil Grand Master's expression, people frowned and looked confused. In just a short while, the Grand Master had been shocked multiple times. It had seriously affected his holy image in everyone's mind. No one could figure out what had happened to make the Saint Devil Grand Master so shocked. How is this possible? How is this possible? At this moment, the Grand Master finally reacted. He screamed crazily, and his eyes were shaking, as if he had seen something very scary. He could not even dream that the Holy Demon Seal had disappeared from the Holy Demon Lake. Without a doubt, the holy demon seal had been merged with someone else. And the one who merged with the holy demon seal must be the warrior who activated the seal. This was what made the Grand Master so shocked. Needless to say, the holy demon exterminating seal was so powerful that even a true Sage Realm expert might not be able to withstand it. How could that warrior successfully merge with the holy demon seal? Saint Devil Grand Master was shocked. He could not believe what he was seeing. At this moment, he wished he could directly enter the demonic Saint Lake and take a look at the cultivator who had fused with the demonic Saint exterminating seal. But he was only in soul form. The environment of the holy demon lake was very harmful to him. It might even destroy his soul form. No matter how impatient he was, he had to wait until everyone came out of the holy demon lake. Then, the Grand Master calmed down and began to wait anxiously. 10 days passed in the long, bitter wait. 10 days later, people came out of the holy demon lake one by one. Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes lit up. He stared at the warriors one by one, feeling their energy. Soon, most of the warriors came out of the holy demon lake. There were only 3 light spots left on the image of the holy demon lake. These 3 light spots were the 3 people who entered the extermination realm. It's coming out. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the lake. His eyes were trembling and burning. Wow! At this moment, a figure flew out of the holy demon lake like a dragon, creating waves that were dozens of meters high. Then he stood in the air. Prince Fei Tian. When everyone saw this figure, they could not help but shout. The person who appeared was Fei Tianlang, who was not from the Sky Shura race. Fei Tianlang stood in the air, looking at the people around him with disdain. He was like a king. He broke through. The next moment, someone reacted and shouted in shock. Rank 9 Pseudo-Sage, he really broke through. The others were shocked, and then they shouted. In just 10 days of cultivation, Fei Sirius Chen had managed to make a breakthrough from Pseudo-Sage 8 Dan to Pseudo-Sage 9 Dan. Chapter 3156. Stolen Limelight. Everyone looked at Chen, who wasn't serious, their eyes trembling with admiration. Prince Fei Tian is too strong. At such a young age, he has the strength of a rank 9 pseudo-holiness. Terrifying. Yet, with his talent, I'm afraid he will be able to reach the Sage Realm before he is 1,000 years old. In the entire all-heaven sacred world, it is rare to find someone who can reach the Sage Realm before the age of 1,000. The crowd looked at Fei Tianlang and could not help but exclaim. Fei Sirius Chen arrogantly swept his gaze over everyone, his face filled with undisguised pride. He enjoyed this moment very much. This kid from Fei Tian Azura tribe is indeed talented. Saint Devil Grand Master could not help but murmur to himself. But in the next moment, he could not help but shake his head. He did not expect Fei Tianlang to reach rank 9 pseudo-holiness after 10 days of cultivation. However, even though Fei Sirius Chen was talented, he was not strong enough to shock the Saint Devil Grand Master. With Fei Tianlang's strength, he could not enter the bottom of the demonic lake. This meant that his talent was not the best. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, while the crowd was still in shock, 2 figures appeared on the surface of the demonic lake. They broke through the water and stood in midair. The appearance of these 2 figures made everyone frown. Their expressions changed. No one expected there to be people in the demonic lake. When they saw the faces of these 2 figures, they were even more shocked. These 2 martial artists were not strong. One of them was rank 5 pseudo-holiness, and the other was rank 3 pseudo-holiness. The rank 3 pseudo-holiness had a very familiar face. It was Nye Tian. How could it be these 2? In the next moment, the crowd reacted. Their expressions became strange, and some even looked at them with disdain. Nye Tian and Tang 13 stood in midair and looked at the crowd. They could not help but smile bitterly. After 10 days of cultivation, both of their strengths had improved. Tang 13 had leveled up from rank 4 pseudo-holiness to rank 5 pseudo-holiness. Nie Tian's cultivation base rose from the 2nd grade to the 3rd grade. This sort of improvement wasn't considered great. After all, they were cultivating in the sacred demon lake's realm of annihilation. However, when everyone saw the two of them appear, their expressions became extremely ugly, and they began to discuss in low voices. These two have just come out. Could it be that they have entered the realm of annihilation? Don't joke around. With their strength, it would be pretty good if they could enter the one death realm. Exactly. I think the two of them were hiding in the realm of annihilation and purposely waited until now to show themselves. What two idiots! With Prince Phaeton here, how could they have the chance to shine? As the crowd spoke, the way they looked at Nie Tian and Tang 13 was full of sarcasm. However, Chen, who was not serious, was looking at Nie Tian and Tang 13 from high up in the sky. His eyes were filled with malice, and his killing intent was extremely heavy. He would not allow others to steal his limelight. Never. On the other side of the sky, Saint Devil Grand Master was looking at Nie Tian and Tang 13. His old face froze again. He did not expect that the people in front of him would be Nie Tian and Tang 13. In particular, Nie Tian's appearance had shocked him to the extreme. After all, when Nie Tian entered the sacred demon lake, he was only at the 2nd rank of pseudo-holiness. A 2nd rank pseudo-holiness could withstand the pressure from the realm of annihilation? Was that even possible? If he did not see it with his own eyes, Saint Devil Grand Master would not believe it. However, the truth was right in front of him. Nie Tian really entered the realm of annihilation. Grand Master, I am out of the realm of annihilation. At this moment, Nie Tian opened his mouth. He did not care about the sarcastic looks of the others. He raised his head and looked at Saint Devil Grand Master with a smile. His voice wasn't loud, but every word he uttered was like a clap of thunder that resounded in everyone's ears. What? This kid came out of the realm of annihilation? Absolutely not. A rank 3 pseudo-holiness cannot enter the realm of annihilation. This kid must be lying to the Grand Master. He must be an idiot. How could the Grand Master believe him? The next moment, everyone realized what was going on and started laughing. They looked at Nie Tian like he was an idiot. However, Nie Tian's reaction was very calm and indifferent, as if the people around him didn't exist at all. He just looked at Saint Devil Grand Master and smiled. The reaction of the others did not mean anything to him. He only waited for Saint Devil Grand Master's reaction. Saint Devil Grand Master heard Nie Tian's words, and his body shook. It was like he was struck by lightning. His dull eyes finally regained some color. Did this kid really enter the realm of annihilation? Seeing Saint Devil Grand Master's reaction, the crowd could not help but ask in shock. You are indeed good. I will think about making the gift invalid. At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master finally calmed down and said in a deep voice. When his deep voice was heard, everyone's eyes widened and their expressions froze. His words were like a loud slap to the faces of these people. If Saint Devil Grand Master agreed to consider making the gift invalid, it meant that Nie Tian had indeed entered the realm of annihilation. This was something that no one could have ever thought of. While everyone was still in shock, Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes locked on Tang 13. He could not stop shaking and said, You merged with the Holy Devil Seal? Tang 13 frowned and his expression changed slightly. Then he nodded. He did not know if Saint Devil Grand Master's reaction was excitement or anger. But in his heart, he always had a bad feeling. Saint Devil Grand Master froze for a second. His face froze, and then he moved his body and came to Tang 13's side. The sudden turn of events caused everyone to be taken aback, and they immediately looked over. Saint Devil Grand Master had always been high up in the sky. He had never been so close to someone before. What happened to Tang 13 that made Saint Devil Grand Master act so strangely? Saint Devil Grand Master came to Tang 13's side, and they were only a few meters apart. Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes were shining brightly. He stared at Tang 13, as if he was looking for something. Tang 13's scalp went numb under the gaze of Saint Devil Grand Master. She could not help but frown. At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes widened. He stared at Tang 13's eyes like a man who had been starving for days and saw a feast. Chapter 31:57. Holy Demon Escarpment. Holy Demon Blood. When the crowd heard the Holy Demon Patriarch, their eyes widened and their expressions froze. Every Azura tribe member was all too familiar with the blood of the sacred demon. Legend had it that the Holy Demon blood was left behind by the first Shura, the Shura progenitor. When the Shura progenitor died, he condensed all his bloodline power into a drop of blood. This drop of blood was the Holy Demon blood. In the Shura tribe there was a legend. Anyone who gained the recognition of the Holy Demon blood could become the Holy Demon Blood Lord and unify the 5 Shura tribes. According to the legend, the Holy Demon blood was in the Holy Demon's secret land, waiting for its true master to appear. But no one knew where the Holy Demon blood was, or how it would appear. But after countless years, no one among the 5 Shura tribes had gained the recognition of the Holy Demon blood. Now, the Holy Demon Patriarch was telling Tang 13 that the Holy Demon blood had finally found its true master. Didn't that mean Tang 13 was the master of the Holy Demon blood? Tang 13 would become the legendary Holy Demon Blood Lord? How could the crowd not be shocked by such shocking news? Everyone else was shocked, but Tang 13's face was calm. She had no idea what the Holy Demon blood was, or what it meant. But from the crowd's reaction, it seemed like the Holy Demon blood was something extraordinary. Among the Dark Wing and the Shura tribe, a very evil face stared at Tang 13 viciously. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said in his heart, "This is impossible." This figure was none other than the Dark Wing Crown Prince, Unwufeng. The others did not know Tang 13's identity, but Unwufeng knew. Tang 13 was not from the Shura tribe. She had disguised herself as Dark Wing and entered the Holy Demon's secret land. How could a non-Shura tribe warrior be the Holy Demon Blood Lord? If Unwufeng went forward and exposed Tang 13's true identity, the Holy Demon Patriarch would probably kill Tang 13 personally. But Unwufeng did not plan to do so. He had other plans. Since the Holy Demon Patriarch said Tang 13 was the Holy Demon Blood Lord, it meant that something had happened to her. Tang 13 might be able to lure out the mysterious Holy Demon blood. Now that the Holy Demon blood had appeared, it was hard to say who would be able to obtain it. A true Saint Devil Blood Lord was someone who possessed the Saint Devil blood. Therefore, whoever snatched the Holy Demon blood would become the Holy Demon Blood Lord. In Unwufeng's heart, he was the true Sage Fiend Blood Lord. He didn't even place serious Chen in his eyes. A cold glint flashed in Unwufeng's eyes as he glared at Tang 13 and said sinisterly, "Tang 13, as long as you can draw out the Holy Demon blood, this trip to the Holy Demon Mystic Realm won't be in vain." At this moment, everyone finally calmed down. I did not expect that the one who merged with the Holy Demon seal would be a Shura with special eyes. Saint Devil Grand Master calmed down a lot. He looked at Tang 13 and nodded. Tang 13, on the other hand, was confused. She had no idea what was going on. "Darkwing Azura brat, why didn't I realize that you were this talented?" Saint Devil Grand Master took 2 steps forward and came to Tang 13. He patted her shoulder and said. This scene caused everyone's eyes to tremble. They were all dumbfounded. Saint Devil Grand Master had never been so close to anyone before. Could it be that Tang 13 was really the Saint Devil Blood Lord, as Saint Devil Grand Master said? After a while, the crowd finally calmed down. Tang 13 went back to Darkwing Azura's group. Nye Tian went back to Desolate Ghost and the others. Desolate Ghost and Yulua were only at annihilation level. 10 days of training did not increase their power. Nye Tian looked at Saint Devil Grand Master. Since the Grand Master had already promised to cancel the gift, there was no need for him to be in a hurry. Everyone, next we will begin the Holy Demon Escarpment test. Saint Devil Grand Master returned to the sky, glanced at everyone, and said in a deep voice. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand, and a beam of light appeared. It turned into a light ripple in the sky and spread out. Boom! In the next moment, wherever the ripples of light and shadow passed, a mysterious peak in the distance actually shook for a moment. Then, it split open from the middle like a huge door and opened. That mountain was hundreds of thousands of meters tall, but it was split in half just like that. This scene was simply too shocking. Nye Tian was shocked. Of course, he did not know that it was not Saint Devil Grand Master that split the mountain. It was that beam of light that activated some kind of great array. If Saint Devil Grand Master split a mountain that was hundreds of thousands of meters tall, it would be too scary. After all, this Saint Devil Grand Master was just a soul. Follow me. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the shocked faces of the crowd and smiled. Then, he moved his body and headed towards the cracked peak. The crowd immediately reacted and followed him. Soon, they reached the middle of the mountain. This is the Holy Demon Escarpment. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at everyone and smiled. He could not help but look at Tang 13. Right now, the person he was paying attention to the most was Tang 13. He was looking forward to the test of the Holy Demon Escarpment. He was hoping that Tang 13 could create another miracle. Feeling the steepness of the strange peak at such a close distance made them even more shocked. The two sides of the mountain were straight, as if they were split by a giant axe. When they came together, they looked like a half-open door. Look, what is that? Just as everyone was shocked by this uncanny workmanship, someone suddenly noticed something and cried out in shock. Everyone was shocked at first, then they looked at the center of the mountain. They realized that there was a swirl of starlight on the mountain. Huh! Nye Tian also saw the swirl of starlight. He could not help but be shocked. In the swirl of starlight, he could feel the extremely strong star power. Is this the black tortoise star soul? The next moment, Nye Tian thought of something. His pupils shrunk as he thought to himself. Before entering the Holy Demon's secret realm, the Luo Sha Temple Elder told him that the Black Tortoise Star Soul was on one of the precipices. Wasn't the Holy Demon Escarpment in front of him a precipice? Look, there is one here too. The next moment, another shout was heard, filled with shock and excitement. Then, everyone looked at the other side of the mountain and saw the same swirl of starlight. Nye Tian, on the other hand, had a confused look on his face as he thought to himself, why are there two vortexes of starlight? Could it be that the Black Tortoise Star Soul could be separated like the Slaughter Wolf Star Soul? Boom! Boom! At this moment, the two sides of the mountain suddenly shook, and a low rumble sounded in the air. In the next moment, a strange scene occurred. Chapter 31:58. Swoosh! 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 High up in the sky, on both sides of the Saint Devil Precipice, two starlight vortexes suddenly exploded, turning into countless starlight vortexes. The starlight vortexes swirled in the air and instantly covered the entire precipice. This scene was dazzling and beautiful. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Their expressions were as blank as if they were drunk. Nye Tian frowned. He could feel the aura of the star power in the air. He couldn't help but frown. He could feel that the star power flowing in the air was being restrained by a terrifying power. He couldn't imagine that other than the star mark and dark seal, there was another power that could restrain the star power. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the mesmerized expressions on everyone's faces and couldn't help but smile. He waved his hand and a ball of light gushed out, turning into light ripples in the air. After a while, under the effect of the light ripples, the star power in the air condensed into star runes. Then, they were engraved on the Saint Devil Precipice like blade. So magical. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. After a long time, all the star runes were engraved on the precipice. On both sides of the precipice, there were two giant reliefs made of star runes. On one side there was a giant black tortoise, and on the other side there was a giant snake. Everyone stared at the reliefs on both sides in awe. These two reliefs were so lifelike. It was as if the black tortoise and the giant snake could walk down from the precipice at any moment. Nietian looked at the precipice on both sides and was equally shocked. He was now convinced that these two reliefs were the forbidden star souls. However, he didn't understand why the forbidden star souls would be divided into two. Black tortoise, true martial water god. At this moment, Ghost Emperor's voice was heard. Black tortoise? True martial water god? Nietian heard Ghost Emperor's voice and couldn't help but frown in surprise. The next moment, he understood. His eyes trembled and he exclaimed in his heart, when these two reliefs are combined, it is the black tortoise star soul. The black tortoise was the black tortoise relief sculpture. The true martial water god was the giant serpent sculpture. The combination of the Xian tortoise and the true martial water god would form the complete Xian Wu astral soul. Yes. A few moments later, the Ghost Emperor reacted and nodded heavily. His face was filled with shock as he said, I really didn't expect that someone would forcefully split the black tortoise astral soul into a black tortoise and a true martial water god. If that wasn't the case, the black tortoise astral soul wouldn't have been sealed by this formation. Upon hearing the Ghost Emperor's words, Nietian's eyes couldn't help but tremble as he exclaimed in shock, the black tortoise astral soul is actually sealed by a grand formation. Earlier, when the Saint Devil Grand Master separated the Saint Devil Precipice, Nietian sensed the power of the formation. What he didn't expect was that the Xian Wu astral soul was actually sealed by the power of the Grand Formation. This formation could easily split hundreds of thousands of mountains. One could imagine how powerful it was. However, even with such a grand formation, the black tortoise astral soul had to be separated before it could be sealed. This grand formation wasn't scary. What was scary was the person who had once separated the black tortoise astral soul. Nietian, it seems like it won't be easy for you to take back the black tortoise astral soul. The Ghost Emperor sighed deeply. No matter how difficult it is, I still have to try. Nietian nodded and glanced at the Xian tortoise and the true martial water god. The reason why the Rakshasa temple arranged for him to enter the Saint Devil's secret realm was for the black tortoise astral soul. Right now, the black tortoise astral soul was right in front of him. Of course, he wouldn't give it up. Everyone, on the two sides of the mountain, one is the Xian tortoise, the other is the true martial water god. At this moment, the Saint Devil Grand Master's voice was heard. Next, you will be tested by the Xian tortoise or the true martial water god. Hearing the Saint Devil Grand Master's words, the crowd couldn't help but be shocked. The two sculptures were so lifelike that it was shocking to look at them. But after all, they were just sculptures. How could they be tested? The Saint Devil Grand Master saw the crowd's confusion, so he laughed and said, Look, I will now show you how to be tested by the Xian tortoise and the true martial water god. After that, he moved and took a step forward, instantly approaching the Xian tortoise sculpture. The next moment, the Xian tortoise sculpture seemed to have sensed something. It suddenly released a star rune, which formed a shadow of a Xian tortoise in the air. Boom! The Saint Devil Grand Master looked at the Xian tortoise shadow, smiled, and then slapped it. The palm power was powerful, and it directly shattered the shadow of the Xian tortoise. Then, the Saint Devil Grand Master came to the side of the true martial water god. After he stabilized his body, the true martial water god also released a star rune, which formed a shadow of the true martial water god in the air. Boom! The Saint Devil Grand Master slapped again, shattering the shadow of the true martial water god. After that, he moved and returned to the crowd and said loudly, You all saw it. If you can do what I just did, you will pass. Everyone who passes will be rewarded by either the Chien Tortoise or the true martial water god. After hearing what the Saint Devil Grand Master said, everyone's eyes lit up. It seemed that this test was quite simple, or even very easy. Nie Tian frowned. He also thought that this test was simple. Nie Tian, this test seems simple, but it is not simple at all. But at this moment, the Ghost King's voice was heard. The person who built this formation is very smart. While sealing the Chien Tortoise and the true martial water god, he also cleverly used their powers. What do you mean? Nie Tian frowned and was taken aback. You wait and see. The Ghost King did not explain, but said in a deep voice. Who wants to be the first one to take the test of the Saint Devil Precipice? At this moment, the Saint Devil Grand Master's voice was heard, loud and clear. Me. As soon as he finished speaking, countless voices were heard. Everyone wanted to be the first one to take the test, to be the first one to get the reward. In everyone's eyes, this test was way too easy. You. The Saint Devil Grand Master laughed and pointed at one person. Many thanks. That person laughed. He was extremely proud of himself and excitedly took a step forward. So it's this guy. Nie Tian looked at the man and couldn't help but smile. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The first one to take the test was none other than the Dark-Winged Shura, and Xuan Yuan, the one who got a sword mark on his face by Nie Tian. Haha, let me be the first one to get the reward of the Saint Devil Precipice. And Xuan Yuan laughed, then started walking to the shadow of the Chien Tortoise. Everyone looked at Xuan Yuan with jealousy. Boom. Then, Xuan Yuan walked in front of the Chien Tortoise. A star symbol appeared, and the Chien Tortoise shadow was formed in the air. Chapter 3159. Too impulsive. Boom. Xuan Yuan sent out a palm strike. His palm shadow was like a mountain, causing the void to tremble slightly. A terrifying aura burst forth like a violent wave, blasting towards the Chien Tortoise. Everyone's eyes lit up. They could almost see the black tortoise being destroyed. But the next second, something weird happened. Boom. The violent palm attack landed, but after a muffled sound, it was destroyed in the air. Boom. Almost at the same time, the black tortoise suddenly stomped on the ground. A horrifying energy burst out, rushing towards Xuan Yuan. Xuan Yuan did not expect this to happen. His eyes narrowed as he exclaimed in surprise. Boom. The next second, the horrifying energy came. With a muffled sound, Xuan Yuan did not even have time to react before he exploded in the air. The horrifying and bloody scene shocked everyone at first, then they all took a deep breath. They could not react for a long time. No one expected that after Xuan Yuan threw out a palm attack, something like this would happen. That seemingly weak black tortoise shadow, how could it suddenly explode with such a horrifying power? Xuan Yuan was a rank 5 pseudo-holiness after all, and he died just like that. People could not help but sigh. After a long time, everyone finally calmed down. They looked at the Saint Devil Cliff with fear in their eyes. Now you know that this test is not as simple as you think. Saint Devil Grand Master had expected everyone's reaction. He smiled lightly and said, Next, who wants to take the second test? As soon as he finished his words, the entire place was dead silent. No one responded for a long time. After the tragedy of Xuan Yuan, no one dared to be reckless. Right now, everyone wanted to wait and see what the others were going to do. Nie Tian, now you know how powerful this test is. Nie Tian frowned and looked at the black tortoise. He heard the voice of Ghost Emperor in his mind. Nie Tian nodded, his eyes slightly darkening. He understood what the Ghost Emperor had said. The precipice formation in front of him not only sealed the black tortoise and the true martial water god, but it also used the powers of the black tortoise and the true martial water god to create a killing formation. In other words, anyone who didn't pass the test would be killed by the array. Such a test could be said to be very cruel. However, this kind of cruelty was necessary. The reason for that was because the power of these killed cultivators would be absorbed by the Grand Formation, ensuring that the Grand Formation's power would not weaken. What? You were so enthusiastic just a moment ago, and now you are all cowards? Saint Devil Grand Master sneered and said sarcastically. Everyone was dead silent. That's right. I'll do it. As soon as he finished speaking, a voice rang out and a figure stepped out. Dash! However, after this figure appeared, it didn't win the slightest bit of respect. Instead, it was met with sighs. That was because the person who had stepped forward was a Rakshasa warrior. Nyetian looked at that warrior and frowned. He felt that this warrior was too reckless. He knew this warrior. He was the one who had attacked Anshuanyuan when he tried to molest the Rakshasa tribe's tribute giver. At that time, this warrior was severely injured by Anshuanyuan. However, after 10 days of training in the demonic lake, he had completely recovered. Gui Wasteland, you are too reckless. Gui Wasteland, who was standing next to Nyetian, looked at that warrior and sighed. His eyes were filled with worry. This warrior was called Gui Wasteland. He was a rather impulsive person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attacked Anshuanyuan. Don't worry too much. Maybe he can pass the test. Nyetian frowned and said calmly. In fact, Gui Wasteland's talent was not bad. He was already a rank 3 pseudo-sacred level elite. In the territory, to have such strength before the age of 1,000 meant that he was extremely talented. Everyone saw Gui Wasteland walk towards the black tortoise sculpture, and they all looked at him with disdain. This idiot. His strength is not even comparable to that dark wing Azura. Why is he taking the initiative to stand out? He is really courting death. Some people are tired of living. You can't even stop them. If this Rakshasa traitor can pass the test, I will eat **T. Everyone looked at Gui Wasteland with disdain. No one believed that he could pass the test. At this moment, Gui Wasteland walked over and the black tortoise sculpture appeared again. His eyes trembled slightly. He held his breath and said to himself, I must succeed. With his next punch, he wanted to prove to everyone that the Rakshasa tribe's warriors were not trash. Boom! In the next instant, his aura skyrocketed to the extreme. He punched out fiercely. The fist shadow was like a dragon, bursting out with a forceful and violent aura. Everyone's eyes trembled. It was as though they could already see the scene of Gui Wasteland being killed by the black tortoise sculpture. Bang! Then, the shadow of the fist landed heavily on the shadow of the black tortoise. A violent, muffled sound was heard in the air. The shadow of the black tortoise was directly shattered. Such a scene caused everyone's eyes to freeze. They were stunned on the spot. Even Gui Wasteland and the others were stunned. They did not react for a long time. I did it. Gui Wasteland was also stunned. He immediately reacted and his eyes trembled with passion. Whoosh! At this moment, the black tortoise sculpture suddenly trembled. It turned into a star rune in the air and surged into Gui Wasteland's martial body. Boom! At this moment, Gui Wasteland felt a violent force appear in his body. It attacked his martial body, and he actually released a very terrifying aura. I broke through. Gui Wasteland's eyes trembled. He immediately reacted and shouted in surprise. Following that, the star rune surged out from his body and returned to the black tortoise sculpture. How is this possible? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? At this moment, everyone reacted and exclaimed. No one expected Gui Wasteland to succeed in the test. The martial artist who shouted that he wanted to eat shit now had an ugly expression like a chrysanthemum. He did not dare to make a sound for fear that someone would notice him. Gui Wasteland's eyes swept across everyone proudly. He turned around and returned to the side of his fellow clansmen. Nye Tian looked at Gui Wasteland and the corner of his mouth curled into a smile. It seemed that the black tortoise sculpture could sense the strength of a martial artist. According to the martial artist's strength, the strength of the condensed black tortoise sculpture was also different. Although Gui Wasteland's strength was not as good as in Xuanyuan's, his talent was much stronger than in Xuanyuan's. After all, he reached the pseudo-saint realm in the domain, while in Xuanyuan reached the pseudo-saint realm in the sacred world. They were completely different. As for Gui Wasteland's breakthrough, it was the impact of the star rune. The star rune was condensed from the power of the stars, and the power of the stars was the origin of power. It was not surprising that the origin of power could stimulate a martial artist's martial body. Gui Wasteland's success gave everyone confidence in the test. Following that, the martial artists began to take the test one after another. Roughly, about half of the martial artists could pass the test. Soon, most of the martial artists finished the test. Next, it's my turn. At this moment, a violent voice sounded and a figure walked out. His aura was wild and domineering. Prince Fei Tian. When the crowd saw this figure, their eyes could not help but tremble. Fei Tianlang was the strongest among all the martial artists who came to the Saint Demon's secret land. His test was definitely extraordinary. Chapter 3160. Black Tortoise Rampage. Fei Serious Chen's appearance made the crowd more excited. Saint Devil Grand Master knew that Fei Serious Chen would definitely pass the test. He was wondering if Fei Serious Chen could resonate with the Black Tortoise and Water God. In this test, if the warrior was strong enough, the power inside his body could resonate with the Black Tortoise and Water God. It was magical. In fact, Saint Devil Grand Master didn't know much about the Black Tortoise and Water God. He only knew that there was a magical power inside the Black Tortoise and Water God, which was extremely terrifying. In his opinion, only the most powerful warriors could resonate with the Black Tortoise and Water God. Then, Saint Devil Grand Master told the crowd about the resonance. Finally, he fixed his eyes on Fei Serious Chen and said loudly, "Fei Serious Chen, I hope this time, you will not disappoint me again." "Yes." Fei Serious Chen nodded heavily. His eyes were sharp and he shouted in his mind, "Ha! Watch carefully. I am going to amaze the world this time." During the test at the Sacred Devil Lake, he was robbed of his thunder by Tang 13 and Yetian. Therefore, during the test at the Sacred Devil Precipice, he had to amaze everyone. Fei Serious Chen took a step forward, but he was heading towards Water God. Wow! The Water God's sculpture sensed something. A star symbol appeared in the air and formed a shadow of Water God. Huh! Fei Serious Chen saw this and smiled coldly. He made his move, concentrating all of his power into one palm. Then, he threw out a palm attack. The palm power was powerful and violent, striking towards the shadow of Water God. Bang! The next second, the palm landed. The shadow of Water God trembled a bit, and then exploded. Then, streams of star power formed into star symbols in the air and entered Fei Serious Chen's body. Fei Serious Chen's body shook, and a powerful force burst out. But after that, there was no more movement. Soon, the star runes gushed out and returned to the true martial Water God relief. Fei Serious Chen frowned. It was not a smile on his face, but a gloomy expression. "It's over?" The crowd was startled and exclaimed in surprise. But soon after, their expressions calmed down as they looked at Chen, who wasn't serious, with disdain. Still not enough. Saint Devil Grand Master's mouth twitched. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Those who were not serious failed to resonate with the Black Tortoise and the true martial Water God. Humph! At this moment, a mocking laughter rang out. It was extremely sharp and ear-piercing. "Fei Serious Chen, it seems like you're just SOSO as a crown prince." When the crowd heard the mocking voice, their eyes couldn't help but tremble violently. They immediately looked over. The person who spoke was a black-robed warrior. He was none other than the crown prince of the Darkwing Azura clan, An Wufeng. Among the 5 Azura clans, the strongest was the Feather Sky Azura clan, followed by the Darkwing Azura clan. These 2 clans had never been on good terms. It was not surprising that Unwoofing had stepped forward to mock Fei Sirius Chin. You! Chin suddenly turned around as his eyes suffused unconcealable killing intent. He yearned to charge forward and rip Unwoofing apart. If it weren't for the Saint Devil Grandmaster, he would definitely have attacked. Unwoofing smiled coldly. He had a mocking look on his face. He was not afraid at all. I want to try again. At this moment, Fei Sirius Chin suddenly roared and moved towards the black tortoise sculpture. He failed to resonate with the true martial water god, so he wanted to try again with the black tortoise. However, when he approached the black tortoise sculpture, nothing happened. Fei Sirius Chin was shocked and confused. Black tortoise or true martial water god, you can only choose one. You have chosen true martial water god, so the black tortoise will not be able to sense you. The voice of the Saint Devil Grand Master was heard. He shook his head and sighed. Fei Sirius Chin, your test is over. Fei Sirius Chin's eyes flickered. At this moment, the crowd looked at him and burst into laughter. At this moment, Non-Sirius Chin felt like he was a clown. I don't believe it. Fei Sirius Chin's pupils shrank. Suddenly, he roared and unleashed all of his energy. He then threw a palm attack at the black tortoise sculpture. Boom! The palm attack was like a mountain, flying across the sky and landing on the black tortoise sculpture. However, the sculpture was shattered. Saint Devil Grand Master was shocked by what he saw. Boom! The next moment, the black tortoise sculpture suddenly shook. Countless star spell symbols rushed out and formed a huge black tortoise in the sky. It was tens of thousands of meters long. Oh no! Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes froze and he screamed. His face was full of panic and he shouted, "Everyone, back off!" Everyone was shocked at first, but then they realized what was going on and stepped back. However, it was too late. Boom! As soon as the Saint Devil Grand Master finished his scream, the black tortoise suddenly burst out a horrifying aura. Suddenly, a huge starlight ripple appeared in the sky. The aura was so powerful that it was like a tsunami, spreading in all directions. At this moment, everyone felt a great pressure. It was like the pressure was going to drown them. Boom! Fei Sirius Chin was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. His body was blown away, leaving a trail of blood in the sky. Damn it! The Saint Devil Grand Master saw this and stepped forward. Beams of white light were released from his body, forming a shield in the sky to protect everyone. Fei Sirius Chin was the strongest among all of them, except for the Saint Devil Grand Master. After he was hit by the black tortoise's energy, he was severely injured. If the others were hit by the same attack, they would definitely die on the spot. The Saint Devil Grand Master could not just watch everyone die. Rumble! In the next instant, the starlight ripples spread out like a tidal wave, bombarding the white barrier. Pooh! At this moment, the Saint Devil Grand Master felt a great impact. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Ancestor! When everyone saw this, their expressions changed and they cried out in alarm. Step back! The Saint Devil Grand Master shouted and took another step forward. The white light around him became even more dazzling. Waves of holy power filled the space. Everyone realized what was going on and quickly stepped back. Boom! However, at this moment, the black tortoise burst out an even more violent energy. The sky was filled with horrible sounds. The white shield of the Saint Devil Grand Master was about to break. Seeing this, Tian couldn't help but frown. The Saint Devil Grand Master was only a soul after all. His power was limited, so he could not fight against the black tortoise. Moreover, the black tortoise seemed to be in a berserk state. Could not be controlled at all. Next, it would release even more horrifying energy. The Saint Devil Grand Master could not take it anymore. If the black tortoise was not stopped, the Saint Devil Grand Master would die. Chapter 3161. I will destroy you, boom. While in the air, Nye Tian released his star power. Waves of energy rushed towards the black tortoise. Seeing Nye Tian suddenly rush over, everyone's eyes couldn't help but tremble. Is this Luo Sha kid crazy? The great ancestor told us to back off, but he still wants to go. Is he seeking death? I think he wants to help the great ancestor. Him? How? If he rushes over now, he is seeking death. The crowd was discussing. Their words were more vicious than before. Ghost Huang Tian, do you want to die? Go away. At this moment, Saint Devil Grand Master saw Nye Tian. His face darkened and he shouted, Grand Master, if I don't do something now, you will die. Nye Tian glanced at the Saint Devil Grand Ancestor and said loudly. Then, more and more star power surged out of his body. Streaks of star power, like a surging ocean, penetrated the white shield and spread toward the black tortoise. Saint Devil Grand Master suddenly felt something, and his eyes trembled. He was surprised. He could not believe that the power Nye Tian released was the same as the black tortoise and the true martial water god. The difference was that the black tortoise and the true martial water god were more powerful. The star power contained in the black tortoise and the true martial water god was pure star power. But Nye Tian's star power was only the power of 2 star marks and dark seals. Of course, his aura was not as good. Saint Devil Grand Master's face froze. He did not expect Nye Tian to be able to release the star power. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the power of the stars rushed over, causing the void to rumble. Slowly, the furious black tortoise calmed down. The crowd's expressions changed when they saw this. They were extremely confused. Nye Tian calmed the furious black tortoise down. That was amazing. Then, something even weirder happened. The black tortoise slowly turned into star spell symbols under the impact of the star power, and then carved them on the mountain wall. Phew! Nye Tian sees that black tortoise returns to the state of relief. He breathes a long sigh of relief and his tense face is much more relaxed. As for the crowd in the distance, they were dumbfounded. They had no idea what was going on. Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nye Tian and froze for a while. Ghost Huang Tian, what is going on? After a while, the Saint Devil Grand Master realized what was going on. His face was dark and he scolded coldly. Nye Tian frowned and his face darkened. He looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master and said cold, Grand Master, I just saved you. I know. Saint Devil Grand Master's face darkened. He said coldly, let me ask you, why is the power inside you the same as Black Tortoise and Zhen Wu Water God? This is my own business. Nye Tian's eyes darkened as he responded coldly. You. Saint Devil Grand Master's face froze, and he couldn't say a word. He didn't expect Nye Tian's attitude to be so tough. However, he couldn't lose his temper at this moment. After all, he couldn't do anything to Nye Tian because of his identity. And just now Nye Tian did save him. As for why Nye Tian could release the star power, it was his personal secret. Even the Saint Devil Grand Master couldn't force him to answer. Ghost Huang Tian, who do you think you are? How can you talk to me like that? At this moment, a deep voice was heard, and a figure appeared behind Nye Tian. Fei Tianlangchen, how dare you show yourself? Nye Tian recognized Fei Tianlangchen's voice. He suddenly turned around, stared at Fei Tianlangchen, and sneered. This Fei Tianlangchen is really lucky. He didn't get killed by Black Tortoise's aura. And looking at his face, besides being a bit pale, he didn't seem to be seriously injured. However, Nye Tian didn't expect this guy to be so shameless. The Black Tortoise's rage was caused by him. Not only did he almost kill everyone, but even the Saint Devil Grand Master was almost killed by the Black Tortoise. However, he still dared to stand up and criticize Nye Tian with a righteous look on his face. This fellow's skin was really thick to the point of being in his mother's womb. Ghost Huang Tian, am I wrong? Your attitude is the same as looking down on the old ancestor. Fei Tianlang coldly smiled and loudly said, "Shut up." However, the next second, before Nie Tian could say anything, the Saint Devil Grand Master's voice was heard. It was like thunder in the sky, shaking everyone's ears. Everyone's eyes trembled, and their expressions were filled with horror. Everyone could see that the Saint Devil Grand Master was really angry. Grand Master, Fei Tianlang Chen's pupils shrank, and he hurriedly bowed to the Saint Devil Grand Master. However, before he finished, the Saint Devil Grand Master raised his hand and slapped Fei Tianlang Chen's face. Fei Tianlang Chen didn't react at all until he felt the pain on his face. He touched his face, and his hand was full of blood. The Saint Devil Grand Master's slap had turned half of Fei Tianlang Chen's face into a bloody mess. The bloody scene caused everyone's eyes to tremble. Their expressions were horrified, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. All of a sudden, the atmosphere was suffocating. Grand Master! Fei Tianlang Chen suddenly raised his head and saw the Saint Devil Grand Master's gloomy face. He was so scared that he didn't dare to continue. Fei Tianlang Chen, do you think I am an idiot? Do you think that by saying something nice it will be over? The Saint Devil Grand Master's voice was like thunder, and his face was so gloomy that it looked like it was bleeding. Fei Tianlang Chen's stupidity almost killed him. Fei Tianlang Chen dared to say something like that. He was treating the Saint Devil as an idiot. Fei Tianlang Chen was trembling. The fear in his heart was written perfectly on his face. He didn't know what the Saint Devil Grand Master was going to do to him. I am going to destroy you. The next moment, the Saint Devil Grand Master's face darkened. Coldness flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly raised his hand. No! Fei Tianlang Chen's eyes trembled, and he screamed. He subconsciously held his head with both of his hands, shaking. Everyone was shocked. Some were scared, and some were surprised. However, after the Saint Devil Grand Master raised his hand, he stopped in midair. His eyes suddenly froze, and his body shook a little. His face was full of fear, but it quickly disappeared. Then, the Saint Devil Grand Master put his hand down again. Everyone was shocked, looking at the Saint Devil Grand Master with confusion. They didn't know what was going on. Wasn't the Saint Devil Grand Master going to destroy Fei Tianlang Chen? Why did he stop? The Saint Devil Grand Master didn't look like a soft-hearted person. Chapter 3162. What a weirdo! Nie Tian looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master and his face darkened. He could tell that the Saint Devil Grand Master was injured, and it was a serious injury. Nie Tian was right. The Saint Devil Grand Master was indeed injured. Just now, the Saint Devil Grand Master wanted to destroy Fei Serious Chin, but he felt his blood rushing to his head. He coughed up blood again, but in order to hide it, he swallowed it back. It was precisely because of this that he suddenly stopped. The reason why Nie Tian risked his life to save the Saint Devil Grand Master was because the Grand Master was trying to save everyone else. The other reason was because of the special status of the Saint Devil Grand Master. The existence of the Saint Devil Grand Master was a huge shock to everyone. If he died, then the 5 Shura races would be in chaos. Especially the Fei Tian Shura race led by Fei Serious Chin. They would definitely be the first to fight against Nie Tian and the others. Therefore, when Nie Tian saved the Saint Devil Grand Master, he was also saving himself. However, he did not expect that he was too late. The Saint Devil Grand Master was seriously injured by the Black Tortoise. The Black Tortoise was only half of the Black Tortoise Star Soul, but it was already so powerful. It was beyond Nie Tian's expectation. It was hard to imagine how powerful the complete Black Tortoise Star Soul would be. Grand Master, I was wrong. I was wrong. Please forgive me. At this moment, Fei Serious Chin saw that the Saint Devil Grand Master did not do anything. He thought that the Saint Devil Grand Master was soft-hearted, so he quickly knelt down and kowtowed. If he was destroyed by the Saint Devil Grand Master, he would not be able to be the prince anymore. He would be a useless man in the future. To him, such a thing was too terrifying. Get up. Saint Devil Grand Master's eyes darkened. He waved his hand, twitched the corner of his mouth, and said, "Don't do it again." "Thank you, Grand Master. Thank you, Grand Master." Fei Serious Chen thanked him profusely. He kowtowed 3 more times before standing up. At this moment, his forehead was already dripping with cold sweat. However, as long as he could preserve his cultivation, no matter how much he sweated or how many times he kowtowed, Fei Serious Chen felt that it was worth it. Everyone was confused. They did not know what was going on. Why did the Saint Devil Grand Master let Chen go? After a long time, the commotion caused by the Black Tortoise's rage finally subsided. Nie Tian looked at the Saint Devil Grand Master worriedly. He did not know how long the Saint Devil Grand Master could last. Fortunately, no one noticed that he was injured. At that moment, the Ghost Emperor sighed. He's just a spirit body after all, and he's already existed for so long. I'm afraid he won't be able to last much longer. Soul bodies could not continue to cultivate, and as time passed, their strength would become weaker and weaker. Saint Devil Grand Ancestor might have been strong before, but now that he was in his soul form, he was only a little bit stronger than a normal sage. He might not even be as strong as Heaven's Chosen One. I can only take it one step at a time. Nie Tian frowned and sighed in his heart. Originally, he was hoping to use the Saint Devil Grand Master's prestige to abolish the rule of giving gifts. But now, it seemed like it was getting dangerous. Right now, the Saint Devil Grand Master was like a clay Buddha. He could not even protect himself. If Chern did not find out that the Saint Devil Grand Master was injured, he would definitely be the first to step out. Next, the Saint Devil Precipice continued. With Serious Chen as an example, the others were extremely cautious and didn't dare to be careless. After 9 days, most of the warriors had finished their test. Originally, there were thousands of warriors from the 5 Shura races, but after the Saint Devil Precipice, there were only 400 to 500 of them left. Some of the Rakshasa race also died. Now there was only one person who did not take the test, and that was Nie Tian. Ghost Huang Tian, it's your turn. The Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nie Tian and said cold. He wanted to see if Nie Tian could resonate with the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god. Even Tang 13, who had merged with the Saint Devil Seal, could not resonate with the Black Tortoise, which surprised the Saint Devil Grand Master. Somehow, he had a feeling that Nie Tian could definitely resonate with the Black Tortoise. Okay. Nie Tian nodded and stepped out. Everyone's eyes were focused on Nie Tian. Their eyes were burning, as if they were expecting something. Earlier, everyone saw that Nie Tian stabilized the raging Black Tortoise with his own power. That was amazing. It seemed like the power inside Nie Tian had a mysterious connection with the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god. Under everyone's gaze, Nie Tian walked over. But he did not go near the Black Tortoise or the true martial water god. Instead, he chose a spot in between. This is it. The Ghost Emperor's voice was heard, with a hint of excitement. In the previous 9 days, the Ghost Emperor did not stay idle. He secretly sensed the great formation that sealed the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god. He chose a balance point for Nie Tian, so that Nie Tian could activate the power of the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god at the same time. Right now, Nie Tian not only wanted to resonate with the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god, but he also wanted them to merge again and return to the original book of Star Soul. The Saint Devil Grand Master looked at Nie Tian and froze, not knowing what he was going to do. The others looked at Nie Tian, confusion filling their faces. Some even had mocking smiles on their faces. This kid is a weirdo. He is standing between the 2 sides of the mountain. Is he going to activate the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god at the same time? What an idiot! The Grand Master already said that only one of the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god could be activated. Is he going to go the way of Sirius Chin? Let's wait and see. I don't think this kid will be able to activate anything. The crowd discussed among themselves as they looked at Nye Tian with ridicule in their eyes. Nye Tian ignored the crowd. Instead, he took a deep breath and started to release the star power. Soon, the power of the stars condensed into a huge vortex of stars outside his body. The star power filled the space within 10,000 meters. What is this kid doing? The crowd looked at Nye Tian with confusion and whispered, "Everyone, step back." However, at that moment, Nye Tian let out a loud roar. Immediately afterwards, the vortex of star power around him exploded and morphed into raging waves of star power that rushed towards the Black Tortoise and the true martial water god. When everyone saw this, their eyes trembled violently, and they were all stunned. Step back. At this moment, the Saint Devil Grand Master felt something was wrong. He shouted in a low voice. The crowd finally realized what was going on and started to step back. In the blink of an eye, the crowd was tens of thousands of meters away, but their eyes never left Nye Tian. And at this moment, a strange scene happened. Wow! Wow!